With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
One round into the championship, and we're already starting to get an idea of the potential battles that we will be seeing in both of our championships. But today may present a bigger challenge than the championship order as we get to head to a track that is the very definition of speed. Monza, and it is not just any old configuration for our production car challenge, it is indeed the Monza combined circuit on the fierce banking that graced this track back in the day. Will the speeds prove too troublesome for our drivers, or will we see a fantastic race? We won't have long to wait to find out as we get ready to watch the PRL Monday Night Series live here on RaceSpotTV. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Ewan O'Leary with our director and producer Arjuna Kankapati working behind the scenes. And Ewan, this is going to be absolutely bananas. We take a look at the schedule here, and you really couldn't go from a different source from Monza this week to Lime Rock next week.
Yeah, the rest of this schedule is really rather bizarre and really rather different to the first two rounds at Daytona and Monza. We've got some really small technical circuits coming up, which I feel will suit these cars a little bit better, the MX-5 and the GR86s. But we've got Monza to deal with here today. It's going to be a slipstream fest, and there's going to be a lot of cars in contention for this win very late on, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there about that. And let's go ahead and bring you through the championship for both of our series here. Starting off with the MX-5s, it is Kevin Sandiego ahead of Roman Bykoff by only about 5 points. Now remember, only one round down, so these scores are going to be a little bit close with Venaro, Putnam, Fuller, Lorty, Chase, Teeter, Doherty, and Cabana rounding out your top 10. We'll start to see how everything shakes itself out as today rolls along, but that's where they stand as of now. Let's also go ahead and run you through those GR86 standings as it's Michael Lang leading the way with 56 points, Eric Harmon behind him, then Nicholas Schwartz, Andrew Sharp, and Jerron Farrell to round out your top 5. Kevin Berquist, Baron Glover, Aiden Irvin, Nathan Miller, and Kyle Stritchards. They're up for the top 10 as they go. And then there are your teams championships. It's Sperati Motorsports leading iRacing, Danger Kitty, Precision Esports MX-5, and Unlimited Slip up in your top 5 for those MX-5 standings. As we look back to the GR86, it's Ariel Auto Art, followed by Whataback Racing Overdrive. A very close competition there to keep an eye on. For Explodini is going to be in third, followed by SRT Esports and Iceberg Racing rounding out your top 5. Well, drivers are headed out on track for qualifying, but before we get to that action, we'd like to thank our sponsors for tonight's racing affair. First and foremost, we'd like to thank Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount code on ASR products using the Precision 5 coupon code. We'd also like to thank Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceboxSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount code using the Precision 5 coupon code. We'd also like to give a big thanks to the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself into the driver's seat. Also, big thanks to Mecha Sim Hardware. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you are looking for high-end pedal sets, a handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get yourself up to speed. We'd also like to thank Muradness. Muradness is a performance lifestyle brand by motorsports, motivated by motorsports, and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit Muradness.com. And finally, we would like to thank NinjaTrader, ready to compete against the financial markets, supporting over 60,000 users across the globe. NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, back testing, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Well, with the business out of the way, we get ready to get to the track here in qualifying. And, well, Ewan, much to our chagrin, it is a little bit dark out on track right now as drivers are having to navigate this very tricky and fast circuit in what appears to be absolute pitch black conditions.
It certainly doesn't help that while you're going at the highest speeds you'll be going all season long, you can't see where you're going either. That's really comforting for everybody. So going to be particularly enjoyable. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for us to watch, or maybe not, because we can't see either. But it is going to be quite a challenge, and my goodness, it was going to be a big challenge anyway. And this is not what we were expecting, certainly, because as far as I can see, it's supposed to be 2 o'clock in the afternoon when this race starts, but maybe that's been thrown away.
Yeah, we'll have to see if it was. We were riding on board there with Kevin Sandiego, your provisional leader in the MX-5 Championship, as now drivers work their way onto the higher banking. This is Andrew Sharp, one of the Aerial Auto Art drivers. Remember, he is one of them up on the top of the charts there for that Teams Championship. Everybody working their way on an outlap right now. Sharp piloting his way around these high banks. And, well, Ewan, you kind of hinted at it a little bit earlier. This is going to be a draft fest. This is going to be a lot of patience for these drivers, just holding their time around as they go, as the banking is just going to increase speeds, and I think it's really going to let a great shootout here build up to the end.
Well, yeah, it certainly is, but my fear slightly is that if they're already hitting the rev limiter anyway, then they're, the scope for drafting may be just a little bit lower than maybe what there is normally. So we'll have to see about that. We're currently on board with Andrew Sharp here, who is on a time lap, who is currently in the GR86 category, as you can see, coming off of the banking. That's all complete and goes towards the Grand Prix part of this circuit, of course, but not the first chicane, because we're not using it, and we're not using the second one either. So it'll be nearly 2 minutes full throttle. And that's what it's going to be like at the start of this race as well. I'm telling you, the start of this race is going to be complete madness, but in a different way than maybe we're going to see elsewhere.
Yeah, most certainly. It is going to be absolutely crazy. As we stay on board with Sharp here, you can hear just a little bit of a lift out of the throttle going down what would be the Rettifilio chicane, and now into the first braking zone on this circuit, down into Lesmo 1, trying to carry as much momentum around there. And Ewan, it's got to be such a strange feeling going flat out for as long as you are, then to get the car slowed back down going in. It's got to be a very strange feeling, it has to be said.
Yeah, it would be a very strange feeling indeed, but then again, they will have had a long time of knowing about this race and about this round and about the layout they were going to be using, so there is time to adjust to it, but pretty much only 2 times you'll need to hit the brakes, or 3 I guess. You'll need to go for the 2 Lesmos there, the Ascari chicane, which Andrew Sharp is navigating right now, and then the final run towards Parabolica. From there, you're full on throttle for about 2 minutes.
Yeah, you certainly are. It looks like here by our indications that Sharp in the number 24 will be the first driver to cross over and set a good lap down. Now, the interesting thing for fans of Monza and fans of motorsport as a whole, keep your eyes out. The actual start-finish line here is on the old oval layout. You can see it there on your screen. It is between the 2 high-banked areas on the track. So that is going to present a little bit of a challenge here for these drivers to get their way around in. That's going to be something that I think we're going to be recalibrating our brains to. As Sharp crosses over the line, he sets down a time of 3:10.967. Then it's going to be Evans. Lang is going to be up on the top of the charts here. Looks like Lordy's going to be the provisional pole sitter for now in the MX-5's. Marlon McMullen working his way out onto the top.
It's all going to change very, very quickly, but I'm not sure whether they're going to get another lap in here, really. There's a very long way around here. Marlon McMullen clearly thinks that he's not going to be able to get another one in, and that'll be it for him. So it may well be just 1 lap here, and then that's it. That's the session complete. A lot of pressure on that opening lap as Kenny Rodriguez will slot onto the 4th row there with 7th place. Race winner from first time around, Michael Lang. Second is not bad, and can't currently see Kevin Sandiego. That's because he's not set a lap time just yet. He'll come over the line, and that is quite a lot quicker than anybody else in the MX-5, so he goes to the front.
Yes, he is. He's going to find himself actually splitting some of those GR86 drivers, Kyle Stritcharts and Colton Lane in particular. And there you see Sandiego pulling off to the side as he knows that he's not going to be able to get another time on the board here as Jamie Potts, the UK&I driver. There we've got a live view of him as you see the dedication that he is focused in on here at this point.
Why is he in a classroom? What's that? what's the whiteboard doing behind him? I don't know. And what's he doing up at this time either? It says a UK and Ireland driver, so I don't know what he's doing here. But anyway, yeah, good to see him out here anyway. And I'm representing. Although a lot of drivers, by the way, haven't set lap times ending up in the final moments of this session.
Yeah, they certainly haven't, as we've got plenty that come across the line here. Here's Edward Peltz in the number 57. Let's see if Peltz is going to be able to put a time. That's going to be 27th overall. He'll find his way back down into the MX-5 category as he'll streak over the line there and get ready to take to the high banks around this circuit. As there we've got a few more GR86s coming back and on through. This is Ronald Overbay, the latest driver to make his way down into Parabolica and down across the start-finish line here. The Ohioan driver trying to be able to put a good time there. Not maybe the widest turn in going into Parabolica, but clearly knows how to get that car to work. He's going to take it onto the outside of the track to try to carry as much speed as possible. Overbay only has a minute left in qualifying, so this will be his only lap that he is able to set down as Overbay is going to cross over the line. Hopefully this lap will count for him, a 3:30. I'm not seeing that one count.
Well, it wouldn't be much use even if it did, to be fair, so that's not good news for Overbay, who'll be starting at the back. It's mostly GR86s, by the way, who haven't set times, but there are a couple from the MX-5s who haven't, like Nicholas Katsas here, you can see in the 5. Dave Peterson also waiting to see a time from him in the MX-5 category, but that's the only 2, and oh dear, Katsas has gone off into the gravel, and he's not found the wall at Parabolica, but that's going to be the end of his session. He'll be starting towards the back.
Yeah, he certainly will, and that could produce a little bit of a problem there for him. Peltz just not being able to put that time down on the board that he would really like to. Jeff Evans, though, up to the top of the charts in the GR86s with a time of 3:09.902.
Well, wasn't expecting to see any times come in a second time round, but Jeff Evans was clearly able to do it, and he's just snuck into pole. But the time gaps you can see there very much reflects how this race is going to go, really. It's going to remain very, very close throughout the 35 minutes.
Yeah, and most certainly is, as we wait for everybody to get their way onto the grid right now. Looks like that's a little bit of a hope we had of it maybe turning over to daytime. May not be taking place here today, as it still looks like it's pretty dark out on the circuit. But that means it is time to go through your starting order for tonight's race. It's going to be Jeff Evans in pole position, able to pip that away at the last possible minute. Marlon McMullen going to be starting at his outside. Then it's Michael Lang and Nicholas Schwartz. Eric Harmon lines up in P5, followed by Gerard Farrell in P6. P7 will be his teammate of Andrew Sharp, and then Mark Feil in the outside of row 4. Kenny Rodriguez lines up in 9th, and Francis Castillo-Romero will be in P10. P11 is going to be Colton Lane, followed by Kevin Berquist in P12. Then we work our way back, and we see the high-performing Kevin Sandiego in the MX-5 ahead of Kyle Stritcharts. Then it's Sean Bancroft in the second MX-5. Then Joseph Bear will be lining up in 16th with Jimmy Richards to his outside. Zach Fuller will roll off in 18th. Michael Chase, the first of the Chases, lines up in 19th, followed by Michael Lordy with Andrew Venaro and Roman Bykoff in P22. Then it's Austin Bartlett Chase in 23rd, followed by Ryan Kings in 24th as we work our way into the meat of the MX-5 field. Kelly Greenhoe and Richard Modrich will be in P26. James Doherty rolls off in 27th with Jamie Potts to his outside. Then it's Edward Peltz and Donald Olson to round out your top 30. In 31st, Ian Cabana and Dave Peterson. Then we get into some of these drivers that were not able to set a time down on the board. Aiden Irvin, Mark Kalin, Patrick Cowgill, Nathan Miller here as they go in 36. Then Johnny Anderson, Ronald Overbay, Nicholas Casaltis, and Colton Easterday to round out your 40-car grid around here. Now, what's going to be particularly interesting, I think, as we get ready to watch and we take a look at all of our drivers here on webcam, is we've got a little bit of a jumbled up grid here, Ewan. We've got these MX-5 drivers right in the midst of some of these GR86 drivers, and I think that's going to present a very, very tough challenge for a lot of them.
It certainly is, and it's different to what I remember happening in the last round. I don't know if I just misremember these races because I watched too many, but I'm very, very sure that the GR86s started good 10 or 20 seconds ahead of the MX-5s last time around, and the two of them were separated just a little bit. In the end, the race actually did end up putting them together in just the natural form of the race. The back end of the GR86s kind of filtered into the leading battle for the MX-5s, so maybe the organisers changed their minds and just thought, well, we might as well let them off together anyway, because they'll get like that after some time. So we'll see what happens, but this is going to be a very, very difficult start, I guess, because the first time they'll be hitting the brakes is more than a minute and a half into this race, which you barely ever see.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting, and it is going to be very perilous for these drivers, especially considering we are racing in near blackout conditions as it is very well on into the night here in Italy. But here they come onto the start-finish straightaway. Jeff Evans leading the way as the Porsche pace car pulls off down into pit lane, giving control of the field over to Evans and McMullen. And we wait to get on the loud pedal as there goes the green, and we are racing here in Monza. It looks like Evans is able to get a good getaway. Lots of drivers just trying to hold back in line here, trying to get the best benefit of the draft here as they work their way towards this fearsome first corner. The high banks of Monza, here we go, Ewan.
Well, this is going to be very, very high stakes stuff already on the high banks, and we'll see quite what happens over the course of this first run through the oval. Is much going to change here in the draft with these GR86s? Everybody going to stay in line by the looks of things as Jeff Evans leads the line right now, and you can imagine it's even more of a mess behind as the MX-5s are not quite as quick in a straight line, but they will benefit from the slipstream and they'll all remain very close together.
Indeed, they will. It's an absolute gaggle here back for 8th place. Kenny Rodriguez, Francis Castillo, Romero, everybody trying to sort themselves out. That's one car trying to work their way up onto the high side here as they filter down into the second part of the high banking. We're still 2-3 wide, farther back down in the pack as it looks like that's Sean Bancroft and Kevin Sandiego trying to be able to filter their way through all of that action, as you said.
Am I watching a production car challenge race or NASCAR? Because this is ridiculous at the minute. Side by side between everybody. Jeff Evans somehow holding on to the lead for most of it so far, but it's still 2 by 2 by 2, and goodness knows what's going to happen into Lesmo 1 here because everybody's so close together, coming up down from such high speeds as well. Even the Curva Grande is going to be quite an interesting prospect.
Yeah, it certainly is. Evans still holding out there. We follow a little bit behind. That's Gerard Farewell. Oh, as we've got a little bit of contact, and everybody somehow keeps it together.
Well, it's very, very much on the limit in these cars. From that kind of speed, the Curva Grande is something you have to think about, and this braking zone certainly will be as well.
Yes, it certainly will. The first time they jump on the binders, as you said, nearly 2 minutes into the lap, and it looks like Evans is a little bit offline. That could open up an opportunity here for Marlon McMullen. Michael Lang trying to find it as well. Almost a little bit of a defensive move there from Marlon McMullen trying to cover him off. Eric Harmon and Gerard Farewell able to gain 2 positions. Nicholas Schwartz down 2 here at this point. As this, you hit the nail on the head here, Ewan. This is a NASCAR-style race.
It absolutely is, but it's got some right-handers in it as well, and we're going the wrong way round. It's all very bizarre. But there we are. The 2 MX-5s having a great time of things through the corners, maybe less so on the straights, but you can see just the problem that is presented now by this format. The MX-5s, or the leaders of them, can mix it up with the midfield of the GR86s, and that provides a real conundrum for everybody involved.
Yeah, it certainly does. And as we've talked about here, with the difference between the MX-5s and the GR86s, a little bit more downforce on the GR86, but not much. That should help them through the corners. But the draft, as you said, allowing these MX-5s, specifically your MX-5 leader, Kevin Sandiego and Sean Bancroft, to be able to just hold on to the back of this big train of GR86s up at the front. Looks like a little bit of sorting around in back. Austin Bartlett, Chase, Colton Lane moving down a couple of positions. Here's Kevin Sandiego getting a big bump draft to the side of him. I believe that's Andrew Sharp and Francis Castillo Romero trying to sort things out. But this is the battle up for the lead right now, as it looks like Michael Lang and Marlon McMullen working their way down to the inside and getting their way by Jeff Evans.
Yeah, McMullen got the push from Michael Lang, and Jeff Evans has to slot in line. Eric Harmon closes up as well, and he'll slot in line for a top 4. Joab Farrell will gain some time as well, and they'll all just concertina together across the banking. It's getting a little bit more strung out and a little bit more spread out, a little bit further behind, but there is side-by-side battling, as you can see, for 3rd place and for 8th place overall as well.
Yeah, that's Farewell, and I believe Andrew Sharp also popping out to the inside there. The two teammates trying to help each other out a little bit, and I love watching Kevin Sandiego, the little MX-5 that could, slicing and dicing his way up into the top 10. He's been able to drop back a little bit from Sean Bancroft, who finds himself a little bit farther down in the order. As we take a look right now as they work their way out of the banking, coming back onto what is the main straightaway. There was a little bit of contact there with the outside barriers. I think that may have been Farewell that got into it. Maybe it was Marlon McMullen, as there you see still 3 wide coming down this main straightaway nearly 5 minutes into this race.
Oh, this is going to be a big problem because the Curva Grande is coming up. They're going to have to sort themselves into at least 2 wide. That's the maximum, really. You can go around here flat out. Another couple catch up from behind as well. It's a top 10 leading group, almost all of them side by side. Oh, my word, there's a big smash behind as well.
Big coming together on down into the first corner there, and that really and truly is going to throw a lot of the pack out of it. We're going to focus back up in on this front leading group right now. Michael Lang trying to still close down on Marlon McMullen. Gerard Farewell holding in behind. Francis Castillo-Romero, Jeff Evans, and Eric Harmon, your top 6. Kevin Sandiego leading the way for the MX-5s.
Absolutely, and embedded within the GR86s as well, which is the craziest thing about all of this. It's very much a top group getting away from the rest. Oh, and it's going to be even more separated now as Colton Lane goes around in the GR86, number 60, and it's Michael Lorty, I think, has got in. It's not him, but one of the MX-5s has got all the body parts ripped off of it after a crash at Lesmo 2 as well.
I think that was Austin Bartlett Chase that we saw with all of that damage to his MX-5. He continues to fall down through the order now, the number 17, in a real tough sorts here at this point. But that leading group here at this point, let's call it about the top 13 or so. That's going to stretch from Marlon McMullen on down. Somebody getting it wrong going back down through. That's Patrick Cowgill in the number 31 machine, getting it wrong on the exit of Ascari.
These GR86s just cannot be saved once they've started to go around. And it's, oh dear, big contact. Kevin Sandiego involved as he tried to pass Eric Harmon down in towards the Parabolica. And all of a sudden, the winner from Daytona, who was looking to a great result here at Monza as well, is falling down the field. And the top 5 get away from the rest.
They start to stretch away, and that's going to be great news for Sean Bancroft, who we watch right now in the 384 as he tries to pull his way up ahead. He's now going to take the position of the fly in the ointment of the GR86s. As we take a look back at the front, actually, let's take a look at the replay here, and this is that absolute calamity that we saw on the last lap.
Oh dear, moving on the straight, and that was contact. There's a bit more contact, turned into the wall. Back across the road, and yeah, there's another pack of cars coming up to, oh dear, collect in a big way, and there's cars everywhere as a result of this. Nearly 10 cars in pit lane now, by the way. I think we do actually have 10, 11 in pit lane right now. That just shows you the amount of damage we've seen over that last lap, unfortunately, in that second group.
Yeah, very much so. Lots of drivers having to come back down into pit lane, and we do expect these drivers to have to make their mandatory pit stop. Well, it's not mandatory, but it is pretty much expected given the fuel restrictions that are placed on these cars. But right now, the leading pack has been narrowed down to about 5 cars. McMullen, Lang, Farewell, Castillo-Romero, and Jeff Evans. Your top 5 here at this point. They're the ones trying to sort themselves out. Nicholas Schwartz leads the second group. He's about 4 seconds behind, and he has everybody all the way down to 13th. Bancroft has a little bit of a company a little bit farther back down there with Zach Fuller and Michael Lorty for the MX-5, but we've got to keep our eyes here because side by side coming down through the Curva Grande, the 65 machine there of Gerard Farewell thought about maybe trying to make that too wide behind Francis Castillo-Romero, but now he's going to be able to hold himself in line, and they go single file down through what would be the second chicane on the normal layout, getting ready to break down into Lesmo 1.
Yeah, there was a bit of contact and even a little bit of grass running as well on the front straight. That, well, it's not quite the front straight, is it? But running past the pit lane there. on that straight for one or two of these in this group, but they've all sorted themselves out. The 5 of them still very much together, and you get the feeling it's maybe a bit more comfortable in this group now as a result of the incidents that have happened over the last couple of laps. The battle for 6th place is all one big group and contains another 5 GR86s with 3 MX5s on the back of them as well, as we look at what happened to Kevin Sandiego, just getting caught up in Eric Harmon's slide there, really, in the GR86.
Yeah, it looked like Harmon tried to be able to take the corner and just lost that rear end a little bit as the car pendulumed around, and unfortunately he was just caught up in that. San Diego now finds himself running in 14th, that's 4th in the MX5 standings, and they've got a nice little train of MX5s there running about the 11th place category there. You can see we've got another car in the back. I think that's Mark Kalin that's looped it around.
It certainly was, and it's another case of these GR86s not being able to be controlled. When you finally lose the rear end, you just can't really catch it. And we've seen that time and time again. It will spin around and spit you out very, very quickly indeed. Mark Kalin becoming the latest victim of that.
As here we have a pass for the lead. Michael Lang trying to be able to make the move on Marlon McMullen. That's going to be Lang out to the outside, McMullen down to the inside. They'll be too wide as they work their way into the high banks here. Trying to take advantage of that high line is going to be Lang, but perfectly parallel as they work their way through the corner. Not necessarily looking like there's anything separating those two. They continue to run like this, and that's going to be great here for Francis Castillo-Romero as we also take a look back at the battle for 6th place. And this is that second group. Nicholas Schwartz leading the way. Kevin Berquist trying to make a move on him. A little bit movement farther down. That's Kyle Stritcharts that's able to make a move on Kenny Rodriguez.
Absolutely, and Zach Fuller is getting pulled along in that GR86 fight, but Michael Lawty and Sean Bancroft aren't really. They're starting to lose the rear end ever so slightly, so that's an interesting one to see between all of those, as it's still side by side for the lead in the GR86s as well. Marlon McMullen on the low side, looking like he's going to take this one, although Romero's giving the help to Michael Lang, and so we could even see free wide actually on the front straight, as maybe Romero going to take it for himself. He won't. He will push Lang to the lead instead.
Yeah, and that bump draft is going to be a big, big part of running today, I have to think. If you're able to hook up and get those cars to work the way you want them to, the bump draft could be absolutely massively powerful, as there we can see it. Michael Lang getting that big shove from Francis Castillo-Romero. We check a little bit farther back down in the field there. We've got a little bit of split screen going on. Zach Fuller trying to work his way down to the inside. Now, those are going to be 2 MX-5s, or 2 GR86s ahead of him, Berquist and Schwartz. But the MX-5 driver certainly putting up a good scrap.
Absolutely, started this lap in about 10th place. He's already gained 3 places now on this one, and looking for another one maybe on Schwartz. You can see the pace that he has through the chicane there, and on the brakes as well. Inside line at Lesmo 1, won't make the move there, and probably wisely as well.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. Pretty wise not to be able to make that move there. We see a little bit of poking and prodding there behind him. That's Berquist right behind him. Berquist was being able to pipped to that position by Fuller. This, again, is that second pack. And I've got to give credit here. Nicholas Schwartz has been able to close that gap down. We talked about it being nearly 4 seconds. Schwartz has gotten it under 2 here as they run.
Absolutely, you do have to give him a lot of credit, and maybe these two groups are going to be reconnected, but it's all going to split apart again in the pit stop phase. Let's not forget we're approaching that phase of the race. We're about 5 minutes away from half distance, and after that we should see some pit stops at some point, but we'll wait and see on that, of course, and wait and see when they actually do come in. But it remains a mystery for the moment. Does look like Schwartz might be able to get back to them though, although Jeff Evans is losing the back of the front 4, which are beginning to separate themselves from the rest.
Yeah, they're starting to do it. Oh, that was Berquist. Berquist getting it wrong, going down into Parabolica, I believe. And there he is, stopped on the outside of the track. I think that's going to be a tow from him, as we see again those non-compliant rear ends of these GR86s really coming back to bite some of these drivers.
Certainly are, and we saw Rodriguez there as well on the outside line, I'm afraid. So 2 cars off at the Parabolica, and so the oh dear me. It was Rodriguez getting straight into the back of the car in front, and maybe feeling so bad about it, he just decided to return to pit lane straight away. That was very, very bizarre.
Yeah, very bizarre indeed. A very strange incident is there. The leading pack streaks off into the night here, and we follow right now the battle for 8th with Bancroft, Stritcharts, Sharp, Lorty, and San Diego. Whoa!
We're four wide on the back straight, and we pull back into line again. That was Michael Lorty right round the outside of everyone, back to the front of this group in the Mazda.
Absolutely remarkable stuff that they are able to keep this up and keep this battle going. I thought for sure that was going to be absolute chaos as they came across the line, but not to be. Lorty currently running in second place in that MX-5 category, trying to be able to hold on to Zach Fuller in front of him, and he is not wasting any time. He is pushing as hard as he can.
Oh, three wide again very briefly there as they're all trying to catch Zach Fuller. Mentioned it there, he's completely on his own by the way, Fuller, but he has got the MX-5 lead right now and he's got a few seconds over the rest as well. Presuming as a result of what happened down in towards the parabolica on that last lap. That's what gave Fuller such a gap, and now he's been able to run with it over the banking. There he goes through the top of your screen, and the rest of the pack that the rest of the MX-5s are in also goes through, and on the bottom it's all crazy as well. Absolutely unbelievable race so far, really.
Yeah, you cannot look up or you will miss a little bit of action here as they work their way through the corners. We watch right now coming down the straightaway, headed into what would be the second chicane. That big group of cars that is the second pack. You see the big fan out there as they try to be able to get themselves around. Kevin Sandiego doing a pretty good job here to try to bring his way back forward. Remember, that number 88 machine, one of the cars that had problems early on in the race, and now he finds himself in fourth in category. But we take a look on board with one of Sandiego's teammates, Ryan Kings here, as he runs behind Roman Bykoff as they work their way down the hill here underneath the banking and towards the Variante Ascari.
That means 1 and 2 from Daytona involved in this second or maybe third group on the road, we can call it, here in the Mazda MX-5 race today. Kevin Sandiego 4th place, Roman Bykoff in 5th as of right now, and so far, as it looks right now, they're not going to be able to get anything more than this, really, but we'll, of course, wait and see a little bit later. Sandiego will be very, very disappointed in himself, really, for that mistake that he made earlier on in the race. As we're inside 20 minutes to go, it's side-by-side for the lead again, as we've got 6 up front now in the GR86s.
We do indeed. Lang and McMullen absolutely side by side as they come across the stripe. Then following them, Francis Castillo-Romero, Gerard Farewell, Jeff Evans, and Nicholas Schwartz, who just set the fastest lap of the race. Keep an eye out on that number 44 machine. Somebody's dragging there going down the main straightaway.
I have no idea who that is. 64 of Kevin Bergqvist. It's clearly that 1 minute pit stop he's just taken is not enough, as Nicholas Kautsas finds himself off the road at Ascari, but it's side by side for the lead again. Fastest lap of the race from Nicholas Schwartz after taking so much of the slipstream of everybody else. That will become important for points a little bit later on, but far more important is this battle for the lead, which Michael Lang has again.
Yeah, and he's getting a nice bump draft here from Francis Castillo-Romero as they come into the second part of the banking. Romero backing off a little bit. You don't want to be doing any of that bump drafting onto the high banks here. It's just too bumpy. It's too chaotic. It's a little bit too much to try to keep that into line. But they're all going to be working their way around. Castillo-Romero lining up behind Lang, and now they're going to be in single file order as they take that little dip to come out of the banking and onto what we think of as the traditional front straightaway here. And now here comes McMullen and Lang going side by side again.
And it's going to be Romero who gets into the back of McMullen and maybe try and push him alongside into the Curva Grande. Jared Farwell here has got a whole head of steam, but I think lifts off a little bit, and that's going to be the conundrum as well here. We're approaching half distance, we're seconds away from it, and what fuel have you got left here, and how much are you going to have to put in at the pit stop? Are we going to see pit stops here? You'd imagine that we will, but they are going to be so important for the outcome of this race.
Well, and with a 3-minute lap time, it's going to be absolutely crucial that you don't miss your pit stop window, as we could see a little bit of a problem work its way out for that. Riding on board with Romero right now, trying to see if he was able to get down to the inside of Lang going through Lesmo 1. That didn't play itself out. Here we're going to check down a little bit farther into the field. Michael Lorty, who has been able to take over the lead of the MX-5 class right now, but Bancroft trying to make a work here down to the inside of Lesmo 2.
Side by side, and Zach Fuller is right behind them. Going to go to the back of Lorty. Is he going to go to the back of Bancroft instead? And there it is. That's why they'll all pull into line and push one another here. So Fuller's gone from first to third all in one, but you can hear him there, just lifting off ever so slightly. He's starting to think about the fuel game now as well. It's going to start to get very tactical in the last quarter of an hour.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there about that. Tactics are really going to come into play here for these drivers. Fuller backing off a little bit, maybe trying to side up the run, maybe trying to save a little bit of fuel. We will have to see. That was Eric Harmon that we were on board with there for a split second as he works his way out of Ascari right now, trying to close down on Nathan Miller in front of him. Whoa!
That's Johnny Anderson, who's off the road there in the GR86 category, very much towards the back of the lead lap, actually, is Anderson right now. Not too many cars behind him actually steering the race, although plenty have come back out again from pit stops earlier. Andrew Sharp finds himself in the wall at Parabolica as well, as we see Jeff Evans and Nicholas Schwartz making the first scheduled pit stops today.
Yeah, Michael Lordy, Zach Fuller, Sean Bancrofts, Kevin Sandiego. Looks like the majority of the MX-5 field coming down here at this point. We're going to take a look at the number 9, just getting it wrong. Whoa, and that was a little bit of spinning and sympathy there, I think, farther back down in the field. That's what you ended up seeing. I got to give some credit here to some of these GR86 drivers, though, to be able to extend this pit stop a little bit longer. Here is farther back down in the field. This is, I believe, Sandiego and his teammates jostling for position on the way in. Oh, my goodness, and contact coming into pit lane.
Wow, I'm not sure who wanted to come to pit lane and who didn't there, but it's always dangerous going side by side. Now, who was doing what here? Kevin Sandiego is trying to come into the pit lane. He gets clipped, though, by the GR86 and smashes the pit wall, and that is the winner from Daytona, surely out of contention.
It's been a rough day here for Kevin Sandiego. Remember, he was involved in that early incident, but we're going to check back in on the battle for P1 right now. Lang, Romero, McMullen, Farewell, the last 4 remaining. They were able to extend a little bit longer and make that pit stop work for themselves. The rest of the drivers here that I'm looking back that haven't made the pit stop probably find themselves in a little bit of trouble here. Strichart's, Miller, Richards, and Modric, because they're running by themselves. They don't have money to draft with, and that's going to be a huge slowdown on their lap time.
It certainly is, and something they'll definitely have to worry about in the coming moments. But yeah, there are the 2 MX-5 leaders. It's going to get quite complicated here for a moment as we try and figure out quite who's where, who's in contention, who's lost time in these pit stops and who hasn't. Michael Lorty and Zach Fuller are 1 and 2 here. There you can see the pit stop times and the gaps. They're the ones in this group with Eric Harmon. Ryan Kings is 6 seconds behind. It looks like we've got 2 for the lead now in MX-5s. Unfortunately, Kevin Sandiego found the wall there in the pit stops.
Yeah, found the wall, and so now it's going to be a 2-way fight, but here is that lead pack of GR86s as they work their way underneath the banking, headed towards Ascari, McMullen, and Lang side by side. It's going to be a battle of the late breakers as they come down into the corner right now. A little bit of a twitch there from Lang and a little bit of an overshoot for Marlon McMullen. That's going to put him a little bit susceptible. I've got to think here, though, Ewan, that all 4 of these drivers are probably going to be coming down into pit lane on this lap, so there's going to be a little bit of an impetus to try to get a move done here going into Parabolica.
Well, for me, it begs the question, why are they battling? Because they're coming into the pit lane this lap. Save a little bit of fuel, then you can knock a bit off your pit stop time, and you'll make sure that that Jeff Evans and Nicholas Schwartz don't get out ahead of you lot. But it looks like they're just going hell for leather right now, and they're just battling anyway, even if it's not particularly smart. Into the pit lane for most of them. In fact, all of them, they'll just about squeeze in from the pit wall there. And now we wait to see quite how long the pit stops will be and where Evans and Schwartz will be.
Yeah, those are going to be the drivers that we are watching here at this point, as it does look like Strichart has come down into pit lane, Miller and Richards as well. That is Evans on your screen right now, currently in P8. He'll be moving up through the charts as more and more drivers come down into pit lane. As we watch right now, they're in perfect unison, drivers leading out of the box. It looks like Farewell is going to be the first out, then Lang, McMullen, and Castillo-Romero. Evans bringing that car up to speed. He's lost out here. He has lost time as the pack is going to be up ahead of him. It's about 4 seconds, but he's going to be up to speed here. I think it'll settle out to about 1.5. He may be able to hold on to the back of the group as he does come down under a second here, so he will be able to hold on back to the group, but not able to hold out a lead after the pit stop cycle.
I think he's going to roar right through to the lead here. Evans and Schwartz have got the momentum here, and you can't doubt the fact that they're going to well, not be hitting the brakes for a while either. So Romero's in danger of losing the group here. He had the longest stop out of anybody in this one. And Evans had one of the shortest. He's going to be pushed by Schwartz. They're going to get to the lead, even as Farewell's getting pushed by McMullen. They could even break away here, these two. As a result of all of this, McMullen goes through. Farewell realises he needs to get behind and get pushing here. They all do, really, unless they want the two to get away. But it does look like we'll retain 6 for the lead.
And that's going to keep the battle here, the 6-way battle up for the lead. Still pretty close, as you said, though. Francis Castillo-Romero in the back, almost looking like he was doing a little bit of weaving there, trying to block off any attack from Lang or Farewell. As we're going to take a look back at the MX-5 battle here at this point. This is Michael Lordy and Zach Fuller with, I believe, that is Eric Harmon right in the mix as well, and that GR86.
I can imagine that's not really a place he'd want to be involved in this fight, really, but he certainly is. And Michael Lorty and Zach Fuller, for now, just pushing to make sure this does remain a battle between the two of them, and you think it will do, as it's side by side for the overall lead, heading towards that, well, not quite a chicane, but it's a bit of a left and right.
It's a little bit of a movement across the track, let's call it that, as they are able to navigate their way through it, ticking down to about 10 minutes left to go here in the first race tonight. That's right, we've got even more racing action after this is done, but we're going to have to get through this because we still have 10 minutes of fantastic battling as McMullen leans from Evans and Schwartz right now. Up at the front of the field, we're seeing them spaced out a little bit more, courtesy of the braking down into Lesmo 1 and 2, but still plenty to try to work their way around right now. Here they come down underneath the banking as they work their way around. McMullen here, a little bit of a sitting duck, and he's just got to focus on hitting his points here. We've seen him make a little bit of a mistake through Ascari. No such break this time. Beautiful lines.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can be difficult, as you said earlier, it can be difficult to focus in on that kind of thing when you've been just flat out doing nothing for most of the race, most of the lap. You're not really having too much to think about, but through those corners you certainly do, and it's a bit of a problem, really. A bit of something to think about, but they've all managed it well, and all 6 of these have managed to control this car well. That was good car control from Romero, because these cars famously don't like it when you get them unsettled, just as he did there, but he's been able to keep it. Eric Harmon, though, hasn't, by the looks of things.
No, and I believe that's at the exit of Ascari, and that is going to break him up from the battle for the lead of MX5, with Lordy and Fuller now in an island unto themselves, able to break away a little bit, but Lordy actually breaking away a little bit more. He's got about a half-second advantage over Fuller. Now, we say that, and once they get their way around, it should be easier. We're going to take a look at the replay here. Oh, just got it wrong. Looks like he caught a little bit too much curb, and that just spat him out on the wrong side.
Certainly did, and then tried to avoid disrupting the lead battle in MX5, I think, and pulled back off the circuit in a very unorthodox way. That was, yeah, slightly bizarre. Lorty slowed down a little bit. Fuller got through. Anyway, it's Lorty followed by Fuller right now, and they're pushing one another. It's, yeah, 6 for the lead once again. That's a lap car in front of them as well, which could make things interesting.
Yeah, that's kind of the twist that they're going to be coming up against here at this point as they kind of get themselves in the single file order. Looks like Lang and Farewell still going to be duking it out at the back of the pack, but they're still going to be able to pick up the crap of the drivers in front of them, so it shouldn't be too much of a concern. There is Bergquist in that orange rear car that you can see. We're going to have to worry about that as here we've got a whole gaggle. Noah's Ark by Noah's Ark. McMullen and Lang, Evans and Castillo all working together, trying to sort themselves out here, and they're going to gobble up Kevin Bergquist. Bergquist just trying to get out of the way by the time they get their way into the Curva Grande.
Well, I'm not sure where he's going to go because they're nearly 3 wide behind him into the Curva Grande. Well, oh dear me, that's all very close. And everybody makes it through. They're almost 3 wide through the corner as well, but they've done it. Farewell pulls alongside Schwartz into this chicane. And then Lesmo 1. Let's see if they make it through. They should do. Farewell asserts his authority and moves up to 3rd.
And that was almost a little bit of contact there between Farewell and Schwartz. Good heads up from Schwartz to be able to back off from that and make that play. We take a look out the back here of your leader, Marlon McMullen, who continues to hold on to about a 0.5 of a second advantage. And I've got to say here, he looks very, very strong, particularly through the braking zones on this circuit. But a close little battle here with Castillo, Romero, Nicholas Schwartz, and Lang. This is the second part of that group. That's Bergquist that you see falling back behind. But these guys have got to be a little bit careful here. They don't want to be scrapping too hard and lose touch with Farewell up in front of them.
Exactly. They need to get organised a little bit here and get back towards the three leaders. Otherwise, they're not going to have a chance of winning this race, and that will be very, very harsh on all of them, really. So I think Romero may have done enough there through Ascari to get close enough, but Schwartz does look like he's struggling on this lap. Michael Lang knows it. There's no right answer really here. Do you push a slow car, or do you try and go around him and cost yourself time in the process? He's decided to try and go around him.
Oh, and they're sending around. Schwartz is going to get it wrong, and that's going to fall him back off the back of the order. The driver who holds the fastest lap of the race has now reduced this battle down to 5, up for the lead as they cross over here with about 6 minutes left to go, and with lap times at about 3:08, I do believe that is 2 laps to go for your leaders.
It is 2 laps to go, and it's the new fastest lap from Jared Farewell there in third, who's really pushing on. I would argue also this is now becoming leading 4, maybe even a leading 2. Is that what Jeff Evans wants right now? Because he's pushing McMullen. Farewell's grabbed the slipstream here though, and he is going to pull back in contention. There's the view that Evans has, just doing all he can to try and reduce this battle to a 1 and 2, which is a lot easier to manage for him. He's not going to be able to manage it. Farewell will be here, Romero will certainly be here, but Michael Lang and Nicholas Schwartz are no longer part of the group.
No, they have fallen off the back here at this point. Casir, Romero, and Farewell trying to close in behind, and you can see just how perilous it is riding on board there and trying to get that bump draft, all of the movement across the cars. There is Farewell in the back right now. Movement again, Jeff Evans. I don't think that was a deliberate try to poke to the inside. I think that's just the nature of the very bumpy, very rough surface that constitutes the high banks here at Monza.
This has been an absolutely incredible race so far. I've absolutely loved this, and we're going to have a fantastic finale to it as well by the looks of things. A lapped Mazda going to be a problem for these guys as well. There's loads of them, by the way. Loads of drivers with long stops, but many laps down, who have come back out of the pit lane to try and complete this race and grab points. So who knows who this could be. And it's going to have to be negotiated in the next couple of moments. But I think the Mazda is going to stay ahead for the 2 Lesmos.
Looks like he's going to pull off to the right there. That's Jamie Potts, by the way, that they are able to get by, and it looks like they're all able to get by cleanly through the second chicane, although it did separate out Evans from McMullen ever so slightly. Evans, Romero, and Farewell run a little bit closer. Let's give some love back down to the field here. This is Zach Fuller, Ryan Kings. This is the battle for the MX-5 lead.
And now we've got 3 GR86s involved as well, as Nathan Miller and Jimmy Richards catch up and get involved. We're nearly 3 wide towards the Curva Grande. It's going to be a grandstand finish in both categories. Oh my goodness, that was a dive. And, well, Ryan Kings will get the lead here from third to first in the matter of 1 lap.
In the matter of 1 lap there, but he has got to hold on to it here for about another lap and a half, and as we have seen, that is easier said than done for any of these drivers. Kings up ahead of Eric Harmon, Jimmy Richards, Zach Fuller. Fuller not waiting around in that number 10. He sends the car down to the inside. Little bit of contact there with Richards.
And he didn't really give space at all through Lesmo 1. You need to arguably keep friends a little bit, or keep it civil at the very least in these kind of groups, and Zach Fuller certainly didn't there, and that could prove to be a problem for him a little bit later on. Maybe he doesn't care though, he's going for the lead almost right now.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to try to hook up to the back here of Ryan Kings, maybe give the number 43 a little bit of a bump going down into Ascari, and indeed that looks exactly what he did. Kings takes a big bunch of it, but Fuller gets it wrong!
Contact made as well with Michael Lawty. Surely Ryan Kings is going to go on and win this now. Zach Fuller makes a huge mistake. It's resulted in big damage for both, and the MX-5 battle is settled right there.
Oh my goodness, as we check back in on the battle for the lead, McMullen, Evans, Castillo, Romero, and Farewell still running relatively close, although Farewell has dropped off the pack here just a little bit. They have taken the white flag as they work down what is ostensibly the back straightaway here of this massive oval. Everybody jockeying for position, trying to find where they're going to go. That car poking out of line, that is Farewell trying to move his way up through the order. I said he might have gotten a run. He's got a great one, and now he's going to poke it around the outside and try to make this work.
Ideally, all 4 of these will want to be in first place at Lesmo 1, because we haven't really seen any overtakes after that. So there's going to be a huge fight here, and we've seen a bit of give and take so far into Curva Grande and into Lesmo 1 as well. But there's going to be no give and take this time. It's going to be all take from all 4 of them, as they're absolutely Noah's Ark towards the pit straight now.
Absolutely, side by side, here they go. McMullen, Farewell, Evans, and Castillo-Romero trying to sort themselves out by the time they get into Curva Grande. A little bit of a bump draft there, given it back by Evans and Castillo-Romero, trying to push Farewell and McMullen up ahead. They're going to sort themselves out a little bit side-to-side contact there between Farewell and Evans. They're going to continue to bang doors all the way through Curva Grande. Marlon McMullen's going to be able to get a little bit of an advantage of that as a result.
Evans gave McMullen a great push on that straight there, and he's pushed him out to the lead. Big moment on the curbs as well. Neither of these want to give up second place. They'll both believe in it, but Jeff Evans has to. Oh, Farewell's gone.
Farewell losing control of the car, and then there were 3 as the number 65 is off into the kitty litter, and now it looks like Marlon McMullen going to try to accelerate away. We take a look at the replay here, just got too much of the curbs, and oh, that is the replay there of the number 10. We saw that what was ostensibly the end of that MX-5 battle.
And this is the end of Jared Farewell's assault on the race win here as well. Just pushes too hard into Lesmo 1. The stakes were high there, but unfortunately Farewell just lost it. And it looks like McMullen's going to take this one now as well. Romero, is not going to provide any help to Jeff Evans at the back of him right now. McMullen has got a second's lead into the final corner. Surely he's got enough.
Surely he's going to have enough here, 9/10 of a second as they come down into Parabolica, waiting to see, waiting to look at that checkered flag is Marlon McMullen, as Evans and Castillo-Romero just aren't quite close enough. The tempo of speed providing some of the most sensational racing we have seen in many a year's time. And coming to the line for Precision Racing Esports GR86 with a wiggle of the car, Marlon McMullen takes victory at Monza Combined.
Absolutely fantastic race, and in the end McMullen was able to get it. He's got Jeff Evans to thank a little bit for it, to be fair, because he gave a fantastic push towards the Curva Grande on that last lap, and that's what put him in race leading position. He stroked it home from there. What a fantastic race it was though.
And let's give some pretty massive credit here to Ryan Kings as well, up 15 positions as they work his way along. Kings doing a fantastic job to be able to get his way up into the lead of this MX-5 race right now, and he is going to bring his way out of the corner. And there he goes, Ryan Kings weaving across the line to take victory.
Yeah, he did. Oh dear, and that's all gone wrong for Roman Bykov on the final corner, and Andrew Venera by the looks of it as well. Kelly Greeno is going to get second place by the looks of it, ahead of Venera and Bykov, who are going to finish inside the top 5. Bykov for the second time in a couple of rounds, in the first 2 rounds. But yeah, what a crazy race that was, and it didn't even end at the final corner for some.
No, it certainly did not. My goodness gracious, as we take a look there, that is big funk there into the outside. I believe that was Kelly Greenhoe getting it wrong on those final couple of laps coming down through Parabolica. A very tough run for Kelly, who put in a very good race. You can just see how that car absolutely snapped on him, those rear tires refusing to comply.
Well, yeah, these cars very difficult to control indeed, and just very difficult to catch again once they are gone. So provided a real problem for some, but yeah, there we are. Not a great race for, well, not a great end to the race for Jared Farewell, ending up in 6th place. But yeah, a great race for us. I have to say I thoroughly enjoyed that. Even if it was a bizarre circuit layout, I enjoyed the race in the end.
Yeah, a little bit crazy, but a little bit fantastic as we wait for the last couple of drivers to cross over the line here at this point. By the way, one note about Kelly Greenhoe, despite that big off, he was still able to finish 2nd in the MX-5 category, so an incredible run there for Kelly. Last couple of drivers here crossing over the line as they go, as we wait for them to be able to finish up their final laps here. That's the number 17 that you can see on your screen as he brings his way up and on. They will cross on over the line, and that should just about wrap up the majority of the field here as they go. But my goodness gracious, Ewan, I mean, just talk about some very, very exciting racing. I don't know if I've ever seen a race quite like this.
No, I certainly haven't either. It was very, very strange in some ways, but very, very enjoyable as well. And very different to what we're going to be seeing in the rest of the Production Car Challenge here this season as well. Monday nights in the PRL aren't going to look like this every week. We're heading to the likes of Lime Rock next, Suzuka twice on this calendar as well. It's going to be a very, very different season, which we get to those much more tight and technical circuits, but we've thoroughly enjoyed letting these cars loose at Daytona and Monza so far.
Yeah, we certainly did. Let's run you through the final finishing order here. McMullen, Evans, and Francis Castillo-Romero, your top three in the GR86 category, followed by Lang, Schwartz, Farewell, Strichards, Harmon, and then Ryan Kings, your victor there in the MX5 class. As we continue to try to work our way down, then Jimmy Richards rounds out your top 10. Nathan Miller was in 11th, and Richard Modric with a good run to be able to move his way up through the order. That was a pretty big game there for him, up 13 positions. Then we get down to the meat of the MX5 field. It's going to be Venero, Bykoff, Doherty, Greenhoe, Chase, and Bancroft. Then Colton Lane and Mark Kalin to round out your top 20. 21st was Kenny Rodriguez. Then it was Johnny Anderson, Michael Lordy in the MX5, followed by one of the leaders, Zach Fuller, who finished a lap down. Ian Cabana was 25th, followed by Kevin Berquist, then Nicholas Casaltas, Austin Bartlett, Chase, Donald Olson, Jamie Potts, as we work our way through some of these drivers that had some problems out on the track today. Peltz, Sharp, San Diego, Easterday, Irvin, Cowgill, Bear, Peterson, File, and Overbay, rounding out your field. As it does look like we do have a couple of our drivers here today. First and foremost, our victor from the MX5 category, Mr. Ryan Kings. And Ryan, how are you feeling? Because that looked, well, a little intense.
I'm feeling ecstatic. That's a great way to start a new season. I didn't make it to last race, so really excited to do this so far.
Well, talk to me a little bit about what it was like driving in these conditions. I mean, absolute pitch black and having to really bump draft your entire way around. What were you thinking that entire race?
Try to stay alive. That was my thought process the entire way through. Lap 1, I don't know if the broadcast caught it, but I had a really big off heading through the fast right-hander after what would normally be the first chicane and like the normal GP layout. But fortunately, with the 86s mixed up with the field, you could just draft those guys and make so much time on the Mazdas that were further ahead.
Well, Ryan, as we turn our sights away from a little bit of the craziness here and go to Lime Rock next, do you like your chances there? Are you going to be able to continue on your winning ways?
That's the plan. Hopefully, me and my team can do a little bit better. Kevin, unfortunately, got taken out this race, and Kelly, I know, got a black flag in the last lap, so we're hoping to score some more points as a team next weekend.
Well, I wish you all the luck in the world, Ryan, and we'll see you at Lime Rock.
Thank you.
All right, that was Ryan Kings, your victor in the MX5 category. And now it looks like we also have our victor in the GR86 class, as Marlon McMullen has been able to join us. And Marlon, have you been able to get yourself off of the steering wheel and pry your fingers off? Because I've got to imagine that was white-knuckled the entire way.
G'day guys. Yeah, I just had to do a quick restart because I didn't have a microphone. So that was about the 1 second break I had.
My goodness, my friend. Well, what was it like driving out there with everything as close as possible?
I'll tell you what, that was an intense race, and then you add the attrition of the darkness, and then you just see all these cars come flying at you like a nest of hornet wasps, I guess, or something, and you got to really be on your toes around there at all times. And then you got the other cars you're coming up on too, and you're trying to make a little bit of a gaff and give everyone room. And it was an awesome race. My wrists are killing me though.
I can certainly imagine that. Do you think you're going to have just as good luck when we head out to Lime Rock next time out?
Oh yeah, I'm a bit more excited about those sort of tracks. I mean, this is my first win. I can't believe I got around this track. So if you're going to get any of them, it'll be one of the hardest races of the season. I mean, I missed Daytona, so once I looked at the calendar and I see a bit more of not drafty tracks, a bit more technical, that's what I'm liking. So yeah, looking forward to Lime Rock. I mean, obviously there's the West Bend chicane, which will add another dynamic in.
Well, we wish you all the luck in the world there, my friend, and we'll see you next time out.
Thank you, guys, and thanks to Dan Sim Racing, RaceSpot Sim Racing, the Buck Kicker, Mecha Sim Hardware, Ninja Trader, and you guys for putting on the show. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That was Marlon McMullen, your victor here, and we've got time for a quick interview with Jeff Evans, who was able to finish second in class. Jeff, are you doing okay after that race? Because that looked a little crazy.
Man, I gotta check my blood pressure or something. Because man, that was nuts.
Well, it certainly looked that way. I mean, how were you able to just kind of keep yourself calm through all of that?
If you think I was calm, man, you're crazy. I mean, with the lighting and everything, not being able to see, and I think that actually honestly kind of helped. I couldn't see all the madness that was happening behind me, just a couple headlights here and there. So, I mean, it almost reminded me of like a super speedway race on the oval side of things. So, kind of, I guess, was used to that. So, it seemed to pay off, I guess.
Certainly did seem to pay off, and we've got to jump on over to our next broadcast. But Jeff, we wanted to wish you the most congratulations. We'll see you at Lime Rock next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
All right, that was Jeff Evans, and that means it is now time for us to get going as we take a look at the rest of the schedule here. Lime Rock, Suzuka, VIR, Olton Park, Suzuka, Knock Hill, Summit Point, and then rounding out the season at Mount Panorama. It's going to be a fantastic run as we head to the Northeast's most spectacular racing venue at Lime Rock Park next time out. But we are not done here for tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because indeed we still have the GT4 Fixed Sprint Series ready to go. And that's right, we are in sunny Sebring. A little bit of a change in venue here, Ewan, but I think this is going to be some fantastic racing.
Absolutely, because we haven't had enough Sebring racing apparently in the last couple of weeks, so we're going there again. So there we are. It is going to provide good racing here for these GT4s, though, very well suited to these cars. And I have to say, I really enjoyed the show that these cars put on at the Charlotte Roval here last week. It was very, very entertaining indeed, and so expecting this race to be no different.
Indeed, as we take a look at the schedule there, Barber, Middow, the Red Bull Ring, plenty of circuits that we are very familiar with, that it is going to be very fantastic to see. We don't have a whole lot of time left here in qualifying, so let's go ahead and run you through the championship order here in the GT4 Sprint Series as well. It is Beckham Jasir up at the top of the charts over Nicholas Riceputo, then it's Carter Hutchinson, Walker Caton, Nicholas Belmont, Max Villeneuve, Austin Lawrence, David Van Roy, Ryan Miles, and Matthew Fortin rounding out your top 10 as they run. Let's see here if they continue to go. We now have Atomic Racing up at the top there for the team standings, but they're in a very close fight there with Race Factory. Only 1 point separating them. Walking Pace Racing within a traction there, within a chance to be able to strike in. Glizzies of Attrition, it's a hard one to say there, in fourth place. Then Radicals Online 465 Garage, Team Beef in P6, Delta Sport, Drive Trainer Motorsport, 034 Motorsport, and Apollo Racing Club rounding out your championship order there in the Teams Championship. But a little bit of a longer qualifying session here for these drivers. They've got a full 20 minutes to try to put down some times on the board. And, well, as familiar as everybody is with Sebring, I've got to imagine here, Ewan, we're going to see some pretty good times coming at you.
Absolutely. We'll get to that in a few moments' time, but yeah, it's going to be another packed field here in the GT4 Sprint Series. Last round, we had very many on the grid. We had, 44 or so, about round 40. Not quite everybody who had signed up, but most of them, and not all of them getting to the end, as you'd imagine as well. Plenty of DNFs on the day, but a very, very entertaining race, as I mentioned, but a very different one to what we're going to see here at Sebring. The walls decidedly a little bit less close than they are at the Charlotte Roval, where you do feel a little bit claustrophobic from time to time.
Yeah, certainly will, and certainly will provide a good challenge here for these drivers. I think it's going to always be a good race when you come to Sebring, and we've got to, of course, talk about going from the incredibly bumpy nature of the Monza combined layout to here today, the bumps of Sebring. You have got to be up on the wheel as you drive around here, Ewan, as you've got to make sure that you don't make any mistakes, because these bumps will punish you.
Now, the main question is, when are they going to resurface it? I'm joking, obviously. But yes, it's going to be a big challenge, and that is the main challenge around here, of course. We will talk about it but it is the main challenge around this circuit to just keep things a little bit sensible in terms of the bumps. But I think these cars can handle it pretty well, really, in terms of if you're looking at actual race cars like these ones are. If you're picking any to survive the bumps suspension wise, then these are not a bad pick.
Yeah, most certainly a very, very good run as we tick down here. About 8.5 minutes left to go in qualifying. It is Ryan Patton up at the top of the charts. Beckham Jasir is going to be in P2, then Hugo Gallo, Mariano Barrios, and Adam Brockway. So plenty of good drivers out in the field right now, and a good smattering of cars. The only one that we're not seeing up in really the top 10 here is the Aston Martin, but outside of that, the Porsche, the Mercedes, the McLaren, all getting some good time in the sun as we ride on board with Patton right now, the Floridian, working his way around what I can only assume is one of his home tracks.
Yeah, well, quite possibly. 3 manufacturers, though, as you mentioned, inside the top 3, which is good to see, as it was a Mercedes lockout on the podium at the end of the race at Charlotte, although that wasn't very much the case throughout the race. It ended up being the case at the end, so we'll see if that is the case again here. Patton currently with the best time. Beckham Jasir, though, once again showing that he is going to be a force to be reckoned with this season. Hugo Gallo completed the race down in, not down in a particularly bad position. Did finish the race in 14th place, but has changed his car already this season, and so has taken a 20-point penalty for that.
Yeah, and that's going to put him on the back foot, obviously, a little bit, but we ride on board with Patton right now, coming through some of those fearsome bumps at the exit of Sunset Bend. He's going to bring the car across the start-finish line right now. Let's see if Patton is able to improve on this lap. Doesn't quite look like it there, as he's now going to be starting a flying lap here. I think that was actually an out lap there for Patton, so he's going to try to gather that Porsche back up underneath him. A little bit of slip there coming through turn 1, but he was able to keep everything together and keep it driving around. Looks like Matthew Fortin able to put down a time that'll get him 19th best with a 2:10.488. Still waiting for times here from Aaron Nations, William Brennan, and Miles Brown as we wait for the other drivers to come across the line here. Nicholas Belmont, I see him up in P8. Justin Ream, one of the drivers who was very, very competitive last season. Ream only good enough for 7th here at this point, and he has also changed cars. He is now in that Porsche Cayman right now, and so he is going to be working his way through as we watch the number 108. This is Jordan Rixgrenny trying to be able to get his way around, maybe getting a little bit of a pull here off of the cars in front of him. That's a fellow Mercedes driver, Nicholas Risaputo, that he's going to be getting a nice little draft off of.
Well, this is the difference from the Production Car Challenge qualifying that we see earlier on and the GT4 Sprint Series qualifying here as well. It's open qualifying here for the GT4, so they can they've all got one big session. They're all out there together to set the best time, but of course it is double the length of time. It's 20 minutes long. We join it for the the final moments just to see who's going to be up there and then get in there for the race, of course, as well. But yeah, it's very much a different kettle of fish, really, when you've got to try and find your own bit of free track space, but also maybe benefit from a draft as well. I don't think around this kind of circuit, though, you'd really see too much of a benefit of a draft, and I don't think you'd see people trying to coordinate that really either.
No, really the only place that you can get that benefit of the draft, I would say, is going down the Ullman Straight, but able to maybe get a little bit of it there. Other than that, you are going to be having to deal with a little bit of dirty air, specifically through Sector 2 on this circuit, as that is certainly a little bit of a trickier place. Here is Jasir as he works his way around right now. I can tell you Justin Ream just improved his time. That'll bump him up into P4, and he'll find him about 4.5 tenths of a second off of the best time. Jasir, though, right now continues to work his way around. Going to be holding in behind Jack Stevenson in that Porsche right up ahead of him. And I got to think that's going to be slowing him down a little bit, and indeed, definitely a check up there as he tries to very violently get out of the way.
A bit of a miscommunication there between the two as well, as the Porsche tried to get out of the way eventually, and Jasir didn't know which way round to go, but managed it eventually, and I think he'll be pretty frustrated, really, with just how that played out, because he was certainly slowed down, and if this is still a pole position lap, then I'll be very impressed, and he will be as well, because it looks like that's going to be the end of his lap.
Yeah, he's going to pull that car off to the side. And we get a little bit of love here to the number 88 machine. Ryan Patton up at the top of the charts right now, continuing to push his way around in that Porsche. We're going to ride on board right now. One of the Mercedes here. This is one of the series organizer, Joe Bertillon, as he works his way around, currently in 12th place. A good run here for Jerome. He's going to be hoping to do a little bit better as he works his way down through Jean de Bienne and down into the Le Mans curve.
Yeah, didn't have a great time at Charlotte, unfortunately, not making it to the end of the race. But he'll be trying to do a bit better this time, and certainly has got a top 10 car by the looks of things. He's just over a second off the pole right now, and could very well get into the top 10 here with an improvement, although looking not on the road and driving down the grass on the straight there.
Yeah, that'll probably slow him down just a little bit, but still may be able to get a good time out here, as it looks like there's been a little bit of a coming together. I think William Brendan and Roy Brown may be having a bit of problems, but let's keep our eyes here on Bertillon as he's going to bring the car out of that final corner. Let's see if he is going to be able to improve here at this point. He'll cross over the line right now, and I don't think that's going to be an improvement for Jerome. He will stay in position, so the 217 is going to have to be there. Ryan Patton looked pretty good through the first sector of the lap. Let's see if he's able to keep up that time on this latest lap. He's going to cross over the stripe. That's not going to be an improvement there for him. A 209 flat, about 0.2 of a second off of his best time, and he'll take a park, head back down into pit lane. That may be his time done for this qualifying session. But Adam Brockway now in the number 42. Love that livery on the Mercedes. He pilots his way around and tries to gain a little bit of time here. He's about 0.6 of a second off of the best driver of the day, Ryan Patton, trying to gain a little bit of time here.
Yeah, I mean, Patton there did a time that would have been good enough to slot himself into third if he did, if he was a new entry into this session. So it does show that he's not exactly going slowly towards the end of this session now, but just can't beat his best. And that might well be the case for quite a few drivers at this stage. Quite a few returning to pit lane. 4 of the top 10 already done with their sessions, with still 2 minutes remaining in this one. Brockway coming towards the final corner right now in, as you say, a pretty nice livery. Getting a first real chance to look at them really in the daylight here of Florida. Out through the final corner. A wide entry and a nice exit as well onto the home straight. Going to drive this one home and will not move up any more positions.
No, we won't. Here's Chris Braddock coming across the line. Braddock not going to be able to improve, but crucially, because this is an open qualifying session, drivers will be able to finish their hot lap, so that's going to be a good thing there for them to keep in mind. Robert Ridgway, who we often see on Thursday nights, making his appearance here on the GT4 Sprint Series. He's going to come across the line right now, trying to improve on a 2:10.6. Not going to be able to improve there at this point. Track temperature is a little bit toasty right now. It is about 101 degrees Fahrenheit, as it looks like Genero not able to improve. Barrios well off time there. I think that was a little bit of a setup lap for him. Hugo Gallo also not able to improve, and he's going to pull off that McLaren to the side of the road, and I think he is going to park that one. Here is Austin Lawrence trying to improve. Looks like he's got a bit of a slow lap here at this point, so not going to be improvement there for the Porsche driver, but he may be setting himself up for a good run in the later stages. And I think that sponsor on his car may be an LA local, so good for him. As we continue to watch here, waiting for some other drivers to cross over the line and put a time. Doesn't seem like we're having a lot of improvement here, Ewan, as I think the sun is certainly taking its toll on these drivers and cars.
It may well be. The track conditions listed for you there, over 100 degrees Fahrenheit on the circuit at the moment. But yeah, it does seem that, and this tends to happen after nearly 20 minutes of driving. You know, drivers of this standard will have reached their limit really in terms of what they can achieve, and they shouldn't really be able to go any faster anymore if they've had a good start to the session. Miles Brown clearly thinks that he can maybe jump up the order as he crosses the line again there, and we'll get up to 18th, so it is an improvement, but there aren't many improvements to see at the end of this session here really.
No, as here comes the number 34 across the line. That's going to be a definite, that's got to be an error there. A 145 would be the top of the charts by a whole lot. Terrafino comes across the line, not going to be able to improve it there. He'll stay in 12th place. Here is Chris Braddock in that Mercedes, trying to improve on a 2:10.459, about 1.6 seconds off the lead. Braddock instead is going to practice his pit lane entry, so he's going to bring that car down into the pits. That's something that these drivers will have to compete with. Here is Anthony Rivera driver who has yet to set a time down on the board in his McLaren. He's going to come across the stripe, and it doesn't look like that one's going to count, so he'll be starting at the back of the field with, it looks like, Aaron Nations, who isn't going to be able to set a time as well. Robert Ridgway, though, is going to come to the line right now at 2:10.8. That's going to be about 2/10 off of his. Here is Genero coming across the line. That's not going to be an improvement there for Vincent. He will find himself a little bit farther down the order as the 27 has to scamper. Do see a little bit of improvement there for that 27 of Mariano Barrios. He'll be able to bump his way up into 5th place.
Yeah, nice late improvement to push Brockway to the outside of the 3rd row. But that looks like it will be it for the session. Pretty much everybody down into pit lane now, and certainly the top 25 all in pit lane, all done with this session. And as we realised for quite some time, it is going to be Patton on the front for this race, leading a very, very long line of cars down in towards turn number 1. Should be 41 starting this race in a few moments' time.
Yeah, it should be indeed, as it looks like the 52 is going to cross over the line there. Not seeing an improvement there for them, so that is not going to count there for that. As we take a look at some of the scenic shots of Sebring International Raceway, and really and truly the way to be able to get your way around here is just to be clean, be consistent, and continue to get yourself into the best position as possible. And I'll tell you what, who has been able to get himself into the best position, Ryan Patton, as we've said. Beckham Jasir to his outside, going to be a little bit difficult in that 1-2 pairing. I think we're going to see a good battle up for the front in those two.
Yeah, we certainly are. I mean, we saw very much a top 2 getting away at Charlotte as well, getting away from the rest, fighting it out between themselves, and that may well be the case here. But you've got to remember, it's a very, very different circuit indeed. The Roval was pretty narrow, pretty fast-paced as well. Felt very fast-paced because everything was just so close together. When you're down there. This feels like a real big Grand Prix circuit and a real big challenge for them as well. More than 2 minutes per lap time, which is not going to lead to many laps, although it's not the longest lap times we've seen tonight, of course. But it is still a long lap. It's a Grand Prix style race, and it's going to be very, very different to what we saw earlier on tonight, what we saw last week at Charlotte, and maybe different to what we'll see next week as well when we head to Barber Motorsports Park. That's a challenge in of itself.
Yeah, it's going to be a real challenge there, as well as this is a really great schedule here for this GT4 Sprint Series, as we are going to have a full pace lap around here, so plenty of time for these drivers to get these tires up to the temperature, which shouldn't be too hard, as the track temperature has kicked up another degree Fahrenheit here, now 102 degrees Fahrenheit. But let's go ahead and run you through the starting order for today. That front row going to be bringing the thunder. Ryan Patton and Beckham Jasir. That is going to be where to watch out for, with Hugo Gallo and Justin Ream starting behind them. That's going to be another very good row to watch out for. Then it's Mariano Barrios and Adam Brockway rounding out your top 6. Nicholas Riceputo, the Floridian, in his Mercedes will line up 7th. Nicholas Belmont will be to his outside with Jordan Rixgreni, and then Max Villeneuve in P10. Walker Caton will be in 11th, followed by Michael Terrafino in P12. Series organizer Jerome Bertillon will be lining up in P13 with David Van Rooy to his outside. A good result there for Van Rooy in qualifying. Ryan Miles for Atomic Racing lines up in 15th with David Richards to his outside for Walking Pace Racing. Gianni Morrow will be 17th, followed by Miles Brown in 18th. As we work our way back down to about the halfway point of the field, it's Joshua Chinsky and Matthew Fortin in P20. Jake Haskell lines up 21st with Chris Braddock to his outside. Vincent Generou will be 23rd, and then Alex May in 24th. Roman Fall will be in 25th, followed by Robert Ridgway, then Joe Jr., and Austin Lawrence in 28th. Jeff Fleischman is 29th, and William Brennan rounds out your top 30. Roy Brown for Team Beef is going to be in 31st, followed by Mark Sigalo. Then it's Jeff Carollo and Josh Kimball. Darnell Williams starts off 35th, followed by Glenn Vanko in 36th. 37th will be Corey Groves, followed by Brian Hoskins, Jack Stevenson, Aaron Nations, and Anthony Rivera, rounding out your 41-car grid. And a little bit like we saw at Monza, Ewan, I think this is going to be a little bit chaotic coming down into that first corner. Drivers are going to have to watch out.
It's going to be a little bit different, though, to what we saw at Monza, as you say, and what we saw last week as well. I'll use the example again. Sebring Turn 1 is not a particularly long run, and it's not a particularly big braking zone either. that is normally the recipe for a bit of a problem in towards turn number 1. It's really wide as well out on the concrete, so you can use all of that space, of course, and it can be quite a smooth run through there, but it does narrow up through here as you run towards 2 and then 3. It narrows up very much so, and that is where we're going to see the problems, in my opinion. It's not really turn 1 that's the problem. It is that run towards turn 3 where you do get that braking zone, you get the narrowing as well, and well, we could see some cars off there. It is hard to believe that we'll get all 41 through without any problems.
Yeah, and hopefully we won't see any big calamities there going down into that corner, but we'll never know. It certainly can happen, as now they work their way through Big Bend right now, and we really put our eyes onto what has to be said is one of the primary overtaking opportunities on this track, going down into the hairpin. This is where we see a lot of that coming into play, and a little bit of that draft that we talked about as well. It's a narrow corner and a very narrow exit. But if you've got the tenacity to be later onto the brakes, you can really make a good move or two there.
Certainly can. I mean, there are chances around this circuit. They're not overly numerous, I wouldn't say, but you do have your fair share of them. I would definitely prefer that one to... Oh dear, that's someone off. Down in towards the corner I was just about to mention, turn 7 and the hairpin. It's the number 130 McLaren off the road. That's Anthony Rivera at the back now. No idea how he's managed that on a formation lap, but anyway, there are a couple of chances, and we should see a race where you can get through on one another. But in GT3 and GT4 cars, with the assists that they have and the balance of performance and so on, it does get pretty difficult to overtake.
Yeah, it really and truly does, and that will truly come into play when we're seeing some of these more featured cars come up against one another. If you are Porsche versus Porsche, Mercedes versus Mercedes, it's going to be more difficult because, as we like to say, that balance of performance, everybody makes the same lap time, relatively, there or thereabouts, but they'll make that lap time at different portions on the track, and so you'll have to see how that sort of comes back to play for a few of these drivers, and when you're up against a car that is similar to yours, it does get very difficult to try to work your way around and through. Right now, they work their way onto the Allman Straight right now. Beckham Jasir and Ryan Patton leading the way, as these tires are no doubt up to temperature here at this point. 103 degrees Fahrenheit out on track. Patton starting to streak away just a little bit as they bring themselves around. Only 21% humidity and not a lot of wind. That'll be good news, but I certainly think tire wear is going to be something we're talking about by the end of this race.
Yeah, the overheating as well. It is pretty warm, and it's right in the middle of the day as well, so in sim anyway. So it's going to be a bit of a problem, something to manage over the course of 40 minutes, but then again, it is in the name, it's a sprint race, and so that will be pushed to the back of the mind just a little bit.
Indeed it will, as Ryan Patton here taking the field out of the final corner. There they all streak their way through Sunset Bend. All eyes go to the flag stand as there goes the green, and we get racing here in Sebring. Brilliant getaway there, it has to be said, for Patton, as Beckham Jasir is going to try to poke in behind him. Still 2-3 wide through the back of the rest of the pack. Let's see if they're going to be able to get their way down into turn 1 successfully. Looking my way down through the field. Looks like the first couple of rows are through cleanly. Nobody off here at this point. We've got one spinning Mercedes. I think that's Alex May into the outside barriers.
And you can see bodywork as well, I'm afraid. So one casualty through turn number 1. It's down in towards turn 3 where we see our first braking zone of the day. And it looks like a fairly clean start out front, although there is a spinner just in the middle of the pack there. One of the Mercedes has gone around and will be going all the way to the back.
And I believe that was Nicholas Belmont that we saw getting forced all the way back down through, as they are still a little bit too wide, trying to work their way down into the hairpin on this opening lap. A couple of McLarens poking their nose to the inside. The BMW there of Vincent Genero trying to see what he is able to do in that BMW, as now they filter their way into single file order and back out onto the back half of this circuit.
Well, the top two seemingly getting away just a little bit. Hugo Gallo trying to stay with them right now, but struggling to do so. The pace of them just too much for everybody else right now as it single files through the rest of the field. You can just see it does look quick on this opening start, and this is the case at Charlotte as well. Qualified second and got right up there, got all over the back of the pole sitter of Nicholas Belmont right away, and yeah, really challenged from the very beginning.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what here, Ryan Patton certainly feeling that pressure here at this point. I like what Beckham Jasir is doing. He's not really trying to be aggressive, not trying to poke and prod his way, just trying to fill up the rear view mirrors of that Porsche 718 Cayman right now at this point as the field works their way through Jean de Bienne and Le Mans. A very tricky sequence of corners and everybody able to get it through together. But now as they come onto the Ulmann straightaway, maybe we see a little bit of draft here coming into play as they line themselves up here into Sunset. Looking at the leaders, it looks like Jasir taking a little bit of a wider line, narrowing it up at exit and just trying to get the blast off at the corner.
Very, very close. And as I said, he did this last week. But can he get through even early here? Beckham Jasir, it looks like we may see a look in towards turn one. It really opens out on the inside there, going into that corner, but he decides not to go through it on this occasion. He does get a better run out the corner though, onto the grass and the dirt on the outside goes Patton, and it's down the inside for the Mercedes and a new leader on lap 2.
Move done and dusted, but are we going to see a little bit of a fight back here from Patton? He may have a little bit of a run coming through Big Bend. Let's take a look at this restart, or the start rather, and there you see that is Alex May to the outside, and I've got to say there, Ewan just carried a little bit too much speed around the outside, and that was contact into the outside barrier.
He did that completely on his own. And a bit of a bizarre one, really. That wasn't on his own. That was one of the McLarens getting tipped around into a spin and possibly suspension damage there as well. Another one of the McLarens found themselves off the circuit onto the grass, and that is one of the Mercedes getting tipped around a little bit earlier on as well. That's towards turn 5 in a side-by-side moment. Oh no, it wasn't tipped around, sorry. It was just a spin on its own as well. So the Mercedes clearly losing rear ends very, very easily.
Yeah, just not really able to keep that rear end grip underneath him, and that was Nicholas Belmont that you saw going for that spin coming down through the corner. But right now we focus back in on the leader, and I've got to say here, Ryan Patton, I thought we were going to see the two of them between Beckham Jasir. Oh, we've got another driver off in the back. That's one of the Aston Martins, Darnell Williams, getting it all wrong.
That looked like an outbreaking of himself there, but we'll wait and see quite what happened, the full story. But yeah, easy to do as well, down in towards Cunningham. It was outside line and outbraking yourself. You do need to adjust for that when you're trying to go around the outside. You do need to brake a little bit later to try and make the move work, of course, especially at that corner, but not that late, quite clearly, ending up in the grass, into the wall and back to the pit lane.
Now it's going to send him back around as we take a look here at Hugo Gallo, the first of your Mercedes. Want to also give some credit here to Miles Brown in the 222. That is our highest placed BMW here at this point. He finds himself in a little bit of a battle right now. Ryan Miles behind him, Gianni Mauro up ahead of him right now. But this BMW clearly not favored by the rest of the field, but Miles certainly putting through its paces here early on.
Yeah, one of the few BMWs, and does not grab the apex at turn 1 there, and well, doesn't grab the exit either. That was weird, and will now get challenged by Ryan Miles, who's on the outside of him. This seemed to happen last week, by the way. The two of them who can't decide where their names should lie, whether it's a first name or a surname or both. But anyway, they're battling again, and look like they're going to continue to do so as well as Miles Brown defends this position.
Yeah, he's going to hold on to it here at this point, and those names just literally put out there to throw off commentators. You got to love it sometimes as they get onto the binders going down into the hairpin. Ooh, a little bit of a look to the inside there for Ryan Miles, trying to see if he's able to force that BMW off of the line. We take a look on board the replay here of the number 40 machine. This is Nicholas Belmont. Ooh, as Belmont got into a little bit of trouble. Remember, Belmont was the one that got involved in that spin earlier on, and that sent the 130 of Anthony Rivera spinning around on the exit of Le Mans.
Yeah, that was the end of Belmont's day as well. Returned to pit lane very quickly, and I think that is the end of his day from here. So, yeah, big disappointment and a bit careless, really, from Belmont, who was pole at Charlotte. Still managed to top 5 even after a bit of damage late on. As a result of the chicane, well, excuse me, top 6th place, excuse me, still managed a nice result, even with a bit of damage and a late repair down on pit lane, but I'm afraid that's the end of his day now, and Belmont has had a very, very difficult day indeed.
Yeah, he certainly has. I'll tell you who's having a good day, though. That's Beckham Jasir. He continues to lead as we give a little bit of love farther back down in the field. This is Justin Ream. We talked about him a little bit earlier, the geodesic driver, switching back to his favored Porsche here as he runs trying to close in on Hugo Gallo in the McLaren up ahead of him. Ream not pushing too hard. Ream was one of the big standouts from last season, had a very, very good run battling with his teammate John Betafer up until the very final race as he tries to push his way around right now. Don't really think there is a need at this point to be that aggressive, as they still have 33 minutes left to go in this race, and as long as you are within position, I think, for those final runs, it'll certainly be good. As we look a little bit farther back down in the field here at this point, that is the number 31 machine. That's Ryan Miles. This battle continuing to play itself out.
Well, I think it has partially played itself out, actually. With this replay, there's the spin at turn number 1. He was still behind Miles Brown and had a bit of a problem there trying to get back going again. Well, he managed it without coming into contact with anybody else, but there it was. Sideways, big slide. And for whatever reason, the Mercedes does seem just really, really difficult to control at the moment in these early moments.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure if that can be attributed to the very hot track temperature that we have right now. It has ticked up to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. It could be the setup for the week. Remember, these are fixed setups, so everybody running similar setups out on track, but there are going to be differences among the individual setups, and maybe some drivers just not coping as well with a little bit of how loose that Mercedes is. But one driver who is coping well, that is Hugo Gallo, withstanding the pressure from Justin Ream behind, although Adam Brockway starting to put a little bit of pressure onto the back of Ream. I think Gallo would like to try to close in a little bit more on the back of Ryan Patton, but Patton and Jasir don't necessarily seem like they're pulling away here at this point. These gaps have really equalized, although one gap that's coming down here is Justin Ream. He's got a good run on the back of Gallo. Not going to go for a look down into sunset, but that Porsche certainly is threatening.
So close behind. So I thought he was going to make a move there into the final corner, and arguably should have done, but decides to stay behind for now. There will be a pit stop in this race, of course, and that's got to be thought about and thought through, but you do also have to try and make a move at some point. They'll stay single file here up front in this 8-car leading battle, really, which is getting away from the rest of the field. By the way, a little bit further down, Walker Caton went off at the final corner there. And he drops from inside the top 15 and back down.
Yeah, here as we take a look at the replay, a look down to the inside going into sunset. And a little bit of contact there for the number 15 McLaren, and that was exactly, as you said, Walker Caton and his problems, and that is what sent him around. Here comes a little bit of a poke from Justin Ream. He's going to look down to the inside of Hugo Gallo going into the hairpin. Ream able to get the car wound up underneath him. He is going to make that pass work. A late braking maneuver for Ream, but he played it to perfection.
It did feel like it was a long time coming, and maybe Hugo Gallo agreed as well, deciding not to fight that one too hard in the end. We are only 10 minutes into this one, of course, and so there's still plenty of time remaining to come back again, but for the moment Gallo just doesn't quite have the pace, and he might have to continue looking over his shoulder here, because Adam Brockway's not too far behind, and we'll be looking to make a move very soon. We can barely see him actually from this camera. The Mercedes is so close to that McLaren for fourth.
Yeah, certainly is, as they continue to work their way around here. Under 10 minutes down on the clock, as now they continue to snake their way around. And obviously another thing that we haven't talked about here in this little bit of a longer race section, we could be thinking about fuel saving from some of these drivers. That was the big storyline out of last year. Who was able to save the most fuel? Who was able to be able to do that the best? And right now, with this big train of about 8 cars leading the way, they're certainly going to be able to take a little bit of that lift and coast. Looked like a Mercedes there behind. I think that was Jerome Brizion getting a little bit wide on the exit of Le Mans. Not seeing any drivers poking their nose to the inside here, though, although a very, very wide run coming down into the corner for Ryan Patton. That almost put him under threat from Justin Ream.
Very much so. Hugo Gallo very much under more pressure from Adam Brockway for fourth as well, so these kind of battles will continue on, but once again, the top 8 have gotten away from the rest. They're fighting with each other, but they just seem so much stronger than the rest, and that's a bit of a surprise really compared to the qualifying times, which weren't actually that close inside the top 8. It is a bit of a surprise to see them remaining so close together, especially when it's not really a particularly big circuit for the draft either. So I am kind of surprised, really, that we are seeing that happen, but we are seeing some bigger gaps open up behind.
Yeah, we are, as we take a look back down on the 25th place driver of Jeff Fleischman right now in the 25 Mercedes. A little bit convenient there that the 25 is running in 25th as he goes, trying to close in on Roy Brown and Jeff Carollo up ahead of him. And that little battle here is Jerome Bertione. We talked about him not too long ago, currently in 11th place right now, taking a little bit of a later apex down into the hairpin. I don't think Jerome necessarily liked the way he got into that corner, but he's going to be able to recover and keep his way pushing around. He's got about a 3-second gap back to Miles Brown, so he's got some room for error here, but I think he'd like to try to close in on Jordan Rixgrenny up ahead of him if at all possible.
Yeah, he's just doing his best at the moment, just going as fast as he can, pretty much, trying to catch up. There's no strategy involved here. It is just about pushing for Bertium right now, and of course, great to get a view on board with the drivers, not least with the in-sim to really see how the cars are behaving and how they're taking Sebring right now, but also to see how they're getting on personally as well with their setups. Bertium going with the triple screen and doing well for him at the moment, looking in search of that top 10 right now as Hugo Gallo comes under even more pressure into the final corner again. He's still not quite in danger of being overtaken though, really.
No, he's really not, as Brockway really needs to be within a 10th. What was that?
Sorry, I thought I was about to be proved wrong immediately and I was wincing. but it's fine. Gallo has held it through the final corner.
He has indeed. Maybe this is the run that Brockway needs. Sometimes if you can't get it down into Sunset, you can get it down the main straightaway. Only about a car length separating the two. I don't see a poke to the inside there for Brockway as they continue to go. Ryan Patton, by the way, we said that he had fallen back behind Beckham Jasir. Well, he just set the fastest lap of the race, so that could turn a few things around here very quickly. Maybe that Porsche driver having a little bit of speed in the mid-section of the race. He could be able to bring some attack back here to the back of Beckham.
Yes, he's staying very close really up front. We didn't see this last week particularly, but we're seeing a bigger challenge to Beckham Jasir in this one. We'll see if it remains late on, because at the end of the race it was a pretty big win for the Mercedes, who, as I mentioned, a manufacturer that locked out the podium entirely at Charlotte. So it could be all the same in 20 minutes time, but for now it is still staying very close. I'm just surprised that Adam Brockway really hasn't tried to make a move on Hugo Gallo up front in this group right now, because clearly he is quicker than the McLaren, which was good in qualifying, but now he's starting to struggle in the race, possibly with the heat, but maybe just with race pace in general.
Yeah, certainly could be, and as it just looks like Brockway is in full attack mode here at this point. We continue to follow Patton around, jumping on board with Adam Brockway right now as he brings his way up and over the curbs, trying to put a little bit of pressure to the back of the 23 here, I think, but we haven't seen him go into full look mode. I still think there's just a lot of patience being exhibited by these drivers in the top 8 as they still run about 4 seconds from Jasir all the way back to Nicholas Rice-Saputo, and they bring their way now down through Le Mans. Let's see if Brockway's able to get a better run off of the corner. Looks like a good run there, but not quite close enough to be able to close into the back of Gallo. I think he's going to have to wait another moment to get a full attack done.
It was a nicer line through Le Mans there, but just not close enough, and not with a big enough run either to get to the McLaren. He does have a very late go on the brakes into Sunset Bend, which he might be able to use, and a bit of a tighter line as well than Gallo, so maybe there will be something in that, and maybe that's where the move is going to come for Adam Brockway. But if that McLaren has got anything like the DNA that the GT3 has, it's not going to be easy to get near in a straight line. We all know how quick it is in the GT3 category. If it's also like that in the GT4, then Brockway is going to have a very, very difficult time getting past this car indeed. And Gallo does seem to be doing a little bit better now, actually. He's getting a little bit closer to the 912 as well.
Yeah, he's just starting to pull in a little bit more as we look a little farther back down in the field. This is the battle for P12 right now. We watch David Richards currently in 13th position as we look out the back of Miles Brown. Richards trying to close in. There's also David Van Roy, Gianni Mauro, and Vincent Genero trying to be able to close in on the back here at this point. Great run there out of the corner, though, for Miles Brown. And that great sounding BMW certainly starting to pull away here. He was really able to get a good run. Oh, we've got an Aston Martin. That is Roy Brown off into the side. I believe that is coming down into turns 2 and 3.
It is. It's that first big braking zone on the lap, and there may well have been contact there to find yourself on the outside. Oh no, just on the grass and slams into the wall pretty hard really in the end. And the Aston Martin may well be fairly damaged as a result of that. It's not been a particularly successful car in the GT4s on iRacing very recently, and Roy Brown not doing it any favours there, I'm afraid. Clipping the grass himself, slamming into the wall. And that will be the end of a good run, or the end of a possibility of a good run, really. He wasn't running up in a terrifically high position, unlike his teammate, to be fair to him, Michael Terrafino, in ninth place right now.
Yeah, excuse me, I just choked on a little bit of water there. Terrafino, the first driver, really off the back of that lead pack, but definitely holding on to a good top 10 here. We ride on board with Brockway once again as he tries to build his way up towards Hugo Gallo. Again, Brockway very late on the binders, going down into Sunset and taking that narrower line. Now, it's interesting there when you go through that corner, there's really two ways of thought about it. You can take that narrower line, but the problem is that you run over some more bumps there as you do. If you take that wider line like you saw Hugo Gallo run, it is a little bit slower, but it's less bumps and less of a chance to unsettle the car. But I'll tell you what here, Ewan, it looks like Brockway's just about as close as we've seen him as they work their way out of turn 1.
Well, it's going to be a look to the inside at turn 3, but there's no way he's going to be able to get through from that far back. And he'll just have to follow through, really, through 4 and 5. And it's once again frustration for Brockway. This is the problem I was referring to earlier on. Not only with Sebring as a circuit just generally, but also the GT3 and 4 cars really. Balance of performance, the traction control and ABS, all of these things kind of add up and mean that overtaking does become pretty difficult. And you do get these static race situations, especially at the front from time to time.
Yeah, you certainly do, but I'll tell you what, Ryan Patton did actually set the fastest lap of the race last time around, and he's been able to bring that gap down under 0.5 of a second here at this point, so we thought that this was going to be Beckham Jasir absolutely running away with this race, but I've got to give credit here to Patton. He is keeping this close and keeping this very competitive.
He is. I'm making sure that, this battle for the race win is certainly not done just yet, but I can't help but feel we can't really say too much on it until the pit stops have happened really in this one, because they are really going to change this race. That's what's going to decide this race in my opinion. If one of these, anyone in this top 8, if anyone gets a big gap of more than a second or so out front, I think they'll drive it home right to the line. But if there's a close battle out the pit lane for the lead, then that may well remain to the end as well. Everybody just on a very similar pace here. Maybe the top 3 with a bit of an edge over the rest.
Yeah, just a little bit of an edge as it looks like Hugo Gallo has fallen back a little bit. He runs about 1.2 seconds behind Justin Ream and just doesn't quite look like he's got the speed to be able to close down there. But there's still plenty of time left in this race as we take closer and closer to the halfway point. We've already seen one driver come down in. That was Chris Braddock, who came down into pit lane. Now, we would expect here the pit lane window to be open from about now and for about the next 10 minutes, as I think that was Beckham Jasir running as wide as humanly possible, maybe making a little bit of contact there with the outside wall coming down. We've got some more drivers opting to come into pit lane. Rice Saputo, Rick Sgrini, and looks like Gianni Mauro also coming on in.
Yeah, so for the next 10 minutes or so, we're going to see pit stops coming in. It's not all going to happen at once like we saw in the production car challenge an hour ago, because the laps were so long around there that it was hard to do any more laps than anyone else. But around here, there is a pretty wide pit stop window that can very much be used. I think for the leaders especially, it's about getting yourself out in clean air rather than into traffic, and that's going to be the real problem, I think, for Nicholas Rice-Puto. He comes out the pit lane now, and he will find his little bit of clean air. I think Joe Jr. just gets in front of him, though. That could slow him up, and that could slow up his outlap just ever so slightly, and he does not need that at all.
No, he certainly does not, and that's going to be one of the big things for calculation here for the drivers up at the front of the field, is making sure that they don't run into any of that lap traffic. As we take a look here, continuing to watch Ryan Patton in that number 88 machine, we're going to jump back on board with Justin Ream here as he brings his way around, trying to put pressure to the back of Patton. again, this could be a little bit of a fuel-saving scenario for these drivers, as we've seen Ream many a time just be content to run in line here and be able to sip that fuel a little bit more, as we are over the halfway point here and we truly are in the open pit stop window. Just about as much of a beautiful of a line there for Ream coming out of the corner as you could imagine. Really well stuffed there for the 912. Interesting there that Patton almost looked like he was poking out of line a little bit. Just trying to poke out of the draft. Not really sure what that was all about, but we'll see. Maybe that's an indication he's going to be coming down into pit lane. No, he's going to stay on out, so no real explanation for what that was down the Almond Straight.
Well, we'll never find out. I don't imagine. It's all a bit of mind games, really, as Barrios and Villeneuve come into the pit lane right now. They weren't as close as I thought they were, actually, as they can. Oh, no. One hiding behind the other. There we are. Coming down pit lane, the two McLarens. And now we'll get our first idea, really, of where RaceSpotTV is going to be. It seems that only only 5 of that top 8 now have stayed out. 3 of them now have been in. Where's RaceSpotTV going to be in relation to these two McLarens? That's the question that I'm looking forward to seeing answered here. Has RaceSpotTV played a bit of a blinder by pitting early and getting into some clean air and going for this? He's certainly got clean air now, but I think that overtake on Joe Jr. might just have prevented him from really gaining anything from this, and the two McLarens are going to be in front of him.
Yeah, they're going to be in front of him by a pretty hefty margin here. Barrios and Villeneuve about 2.5 seconds ahead. There you can see the two McLarens. There you can see RaceSpotTV on the back of the screen, and that is certainly going to stretch them out a little bit. But look at this. Beckham Jasir now, I would fully say, under pressure from Ryan Patton, as that number 88 Porsche closing up to the back, as is Justin Ream. Throw a blanket over these top 3. They're only separated by about 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, they were very close. Have been to turn 10 there, though. Patton just made a bit of a mistake and dropped back to about half a second, although he's able to close that one in very quickly again as well. In towards the final chicane. Jasir almost seems like he's lifting off right now. I hope he's not, miscalculated here and got the fuel numbers wrong, because he does seem to be going very slowly on this final lap right now. It's a great exit from both of the Porsches, and Patton and Ream might well be in front before these final pit stops here. These only pit stops, I should say, into Sunset Bend. It looks like we will have a new leader.
Yes, we will, as Ryan Patton and Justin Ream are going to be able to work their way by Beckham Jasir. Jasir clearly waiting back in line there, not sure what happened, and let's see if these Porsches are going to pull their way down into pit lane. Indeed, they are. Jasir will follow them. Hugo Gallo, Adam Brockway, the top 5, all coming on down into the pits.
So that was the limit, and this group won't have been going that quickly on that last lap. Beckham Jasir was clearly very low on fuel, and he's all right now. Is he just going to splutter into his pit box? He's not even going to do that. He does have enough fuel to get in there, but I've no idea why he was lifting off quite as much as he was towards the end there. All 5 of them come to a stop then, and now we'll see the pit stop times. We're in the 18 seconds region for the two McLarens who are still out there. What's it going to be for these guys?
Well, let's wait and see. Interestingly there, that it looked like Ream took some tires there. That could slow him down a little bit, but out in front, Ream did not take tires. That was Ryan Patton that took tires. Ream is going to be the one out into the lead, 17.9 seconds, as he will lead Ryan Patton, Beckham Jasir, Hugo Gallo, and Adam Brockway.
Oh, was that even a legal pit exit there from Patton? Because he was just on the racing line immediately there. That's bizarre, as that's a dive as well from Villeneuve on Barrios there. Side by side through turn 4. They'll go into 5 as well, will the two McLarens. And it will remain side by side, but Marino Barrios will indeed get through and stay through into 6th place. So those that stayed out the longest seem to have done the best there. I think as a result of pit stop times, really, it generally was told that the further you go there, the shorter your pit stop would be.
Ooh, a little bit of contact there between Villeneuve and Barrios there as they came down through the hairpin, but they're going to be able to sort themselves out with Maxime able to hold on to the lead in that 465 machine. Barrios in the 27 having to hold in behind. Now, the crucial thing to keep in mind here about these pit stops is we saw Ryan Patton take tires. Is Ream, is Jasir, are they going to have to be nursing tires over the course of this final run, or is that fresh rubber for Ryan Patton going to prove an absolute masterstroke around the bumps of Sebring?
I'm not sure, really. I'm not sure quite what a difference you know, all of this is going to make. I said it earlier on that if any one of these 8 come out with more than a second's worth of a lead, I think they're going to drive it home to the line, and I think that's the case for Justin Rim as well right now. He's got more than a second and a half even on Patton and Jasir. That's not the main problem. The main problem is the fact that Jasir is trying to get back through on the Porsche right now. He's slowing them down by fighting, but then again Jasir will feel he's been slowing down by Patton because he's, well, stuck behind right now. He'll get to the inside going towards Sunset Bend and might well be through here.
It looks like he's got the line. Jasir is going to be able to hold that out coming out of the final corner, and Beckham Jasir back up into P2, having made the move on Ryan Patton. Those tires clearly not paying in good dividends for Ryan Patton here in the early stages of this second stint. But we will have to see now as Justin Ream does find himself 1.3 seconds up the road. Can Beckham Jasir close down on him? Little bit as close battling a little farther back down in the field. I think that was a lapped BMW that we saw getting forced off a little bit as these two McLarens of Villeneuve and Barrios trying to be able to sort their way on through everything.
Yeah, they're fighting so hard of those two McLarens, and now RaceSpotTV gets involved as well, allowing the 5 in front to very much get away. But I don't think they'll care too much. The two McLarens have had a good fight, and now RaceSpotTV very much getting involved in it as Hugo Gallo now tries to overtake Patton as well. This is really a slow couple of moments from the Porsche on the exit of the pit lane here. Adam Brockway gets through on Gallo, but everyone's getting through on Ryan Patton right now.
I think those tires may have been a little bit of a mistake there for Ryan Patton, as it clearly just looks like it's taking more than a lap or two to get them up to temperature, and he is really struggling here. He's already 1.9 seconds off the back of Beckham Jasir, and we're not even halfway through this lap, Ewan.
Yeah, this is really bizarre, and Patton, for whatever reason, has just seen the pace go out of him completely, almost as if he's changed driver to someone who's, you know, not nearly as experienced as him. It's very, very bizarre. A completely changed driver, as I say. So wide in towards the final chicane. Brockway all over the back of the Porsche in front, crawling over him, and we'll have a better exit out of Le Mans. And we'll surely have a go into the final corner as well. It's very, very bizarre, but pretty disastrous for the race. It looks like it's going to be between the top 2.
Yeah, it certainly does at this point, but we're going to keep our eyes focused on that battle for the final podium position, as it looks like Patton at top speed is able to get that Porsche working, but under braking, Adam Brockway able to close in once again as they work their way out of the final corner right now. 11 minutes left on the clock as they come across the line. It looks like Ryan Patton's not going to be in quite enough close. He's going to be able to hold on for the moment. Adam Brockway not quite close enough to be able to make that work, but they've also got Hugo Gallo stalking in the background as well. They've got to keep their eyes open. This attack could come from absolutely anywhere.
It very much could. And so, we're looking everywhere as well. Down the inside for RaceSpotTV. That was very nice. Very decisive. Laced on the brakes and made sure of it. He's up to 6th place. Those two McLarens are not going to let him go easily, but that was very nice. If you're going to make it a dive, you've got to do it convincingly. You've got to get far enough alongside. You've got to get the position in one go. And RaceSpotTV did all of those things up to 6th place, although he's getting attacked into turn 7. My goodness.
Oh, but he got a little bit of a bump there from behind from Mariano Barrios, and I think that actually may have helped rotate the car a little bit, and that's going to put him right back into position. A kind of bizarre sequence of events there for Nicholas RaceSpotTV, but able to pull it off, and he's going to find himself back up into 6th place.
That McLaren just able to go so much later on the brakes than you are in the Mercedes. Maybe a weight thing in there, I'm not entirely sure, but for whatever reason, Villeneuve just decided to fire it down the inside, and in the end RaceSpotTV knew exactly what to do. Just slow it on the way in, fast on the way out, and get the position back, thanks very much, and he certainly did in the end. So he's managed it up to 6th place, and I can't imagine that's the last we'll see of that battle either.
I can't imagine that, but we've got another battle that we've got to focus in on. Justin Ream and Beckham Jasir. We said that Jasir had some speed. Well, he's been able to close that gap under 0.5 of a second here at this point, and certainly Justin Ream feeling the pressure, having to weave going down the Ullman straightaway to be able to hold that out. The 912, it certainly has to be said, is under attack here at this point, taking a wider line down through Sunset as Jasir tries to apply pressure to the back, and we cross over the stripe with 9 minutes left to go. This is the fight for the lead of the race. Now, Ream has been able to stretch away a little bit on the start-finish straightaway, but Beckham Jasir certainly looks better coming down the Ullman straight, the run off of Le Mans, and I wonder if we're going to see these two get elbows out and really start to tango.
And the first half of the race, Jasir did look at, or certainly towards the end of that first stint, Jasir looked a little bit vulnerable to the Porsches behind, including Justin Ream, of course, but now it's roles reversed almost, and Jasir is looking a little bit stronger as they've put the fuel back into the cars, and it's starting to even out now between the two, but there's plenty of laps, 4 laps after this one, to sort themselves out. So that's going to be a very, very nervy final few laps for Justin Ream out in the front here. Beckham Jasir with everything in front of him right now. He can pick and choose his moments, and it is just between these two as well, which is very helpful to the trailing car.
Yeah, it certainly is. It is just a battle between the two of them as Ryan Patton has fallen off about 2 seconds off of the back. And this is the battle back for P3 right now between Patton, Brockway, and Gallo. Has to be said here that Adam Brockway has fallen off the back of Ryan Patton just a little bit. We saw that running a lot closer not too long ago, but now Brockway seeming to struggle a little bit. Maybe it's the pressure coming from behind from Gallo. Maybe he's just running out of pace here. Remember, Ryan Patton did take those tires in the pit stops. Could they maybe coming into their own here at this point? But let's see as they work their way through Jean de Bienne, now through Le Mans Curve. Patton holding off a nice little lead here. It's going to be about 0.8 of a second. As I look ahead on him, though, Justin Ream again weaving back and forth down the Ullman Straight.
Oh, half trying to defend, half trying to deflect some slipstream, I'd imagine, as well, down in towards Sunset, because the Mercedes has proved to be very, very strong on the way into here as they're braking and turning at the same time. It's been a corner that it's traditionally enjoyed. Rasputo here, you can see the way that you're able to throw that car into this turn, just in a way that you can't in the McLaren, or indeed in the Porsche. As Jasir gets very close, he won't look up the inside at turn 1, he might well wait for turn 3.
He very well might. He's got a good run off at the corner. Ream immediately has to go defensive, covering off that inside line. Almost contact there between the two as they work their way through turn 2. Ream may be under attack here, but he has not given it up without a fight.
Well, that was almost not really legal from Justin Ream there to defend and then pull back to the racing line. I know there's a kink in the road there and that could distort things a little bit in terms of the rules, but that was nearly out of line. Ream once again keeping it to the middle of the road, making it as difficult as possible for Jasir to have his way, but it's another good exit and a move is on here towards turn 10.
And I've got to say, if you're Beckham Jasir, you need to get this move done sooner rather than later, because Ryan Patton has been able to close down just a little bit. There we take a look on board the Porsche as they come down into the corner. The more these two battle in front of them here, Ewan, the closer Patton is going to get, and we could see a 3-way battle fire itself off.
We very much could, but you've got to remember that Patton is closing a lot more considerably than those around him right now, so it's partly down to him as Ream goes off. Oh, very nearly loses the car entirely. Beckham Jasir has got no choice but to go through, and Ryan Patton might well get up into second here as well.
Yeah, costing him a lot of momentum. There is Justin Ream as he's now going to have to defend on his fellow Porsche driver, Ryan Patton, who's only about 0.2 of a second behind him now as they work their way through Le Mans, trying to push as hard as possible. Beckham Jasir has about a second gap. That's going to be good news for him as he will be able to hold on to that and not have to worry about too much of the draft. Ream, in contrast, able to hold on to a very good run off of Le Mans. I think that's going to prevent him from getting overtaken here as now the top 5 work their way down into Sunset as we tick down with under 5 minutes to go. I believe this should be 3 laps to go at the line for these drivers, and I've got to say it's still anybody's race.
Well, it is, but there's only 3 laps remaining, and if Patton wants to make this his race, then he's got to get through on Justin Ream very quickly, although it does kind of depend on how quickly the Porsche driver picks himself up from that mistake. And it certainly was an unforced error, really, down at Tower Corner. And, well, he'll be very disappointed in himself for that one. And now to give Jasir nearly a second's worth of a lead there at its maximum gap and allow him to run with that, he'll be very disappointed. But it does look like he's got some more to give here. Time is on his side. He can get back to the Mercedes in front and maybe give him one more challenge before the end.
We do have a little bit of lap traffic they're going to have to deal with. Jack Stevenson about 3.5 seconds up the road here at this point. Hopefully Stevenson will recognize them coming behind. There you just saw Jack flash through the foreground of your screen. But let's see here. It already looks like Justin Ream has been able to cut that gap down to under 0.6 of a second as they work their way up towards Cunningham right now. Trying to see if he can close down a little bit more. Obviously going to Constantina just a little bit, going down into the braking zone. But as he works his way around, he keeps that gap at about 0.5 of a second. Ream is not done quite yet.
Not yet. He's closer than ever, or closer than he has been on this lap, and back to the scene of the incident last lap. A little bit slower on the exit there, maybe with caution in his mind a little bit instead this time. But that lap traffic very much could play a role here with more than 2 laps remaining. It is going to be caught, and let's hope that it doesn't have too much of a role in this battle here now and just gets out the way on the straight. Certainly will, although Jasir may have been slowed up ever so slightly by that.
I certainly think he was, because that gap is coming down from 3.5 of a second, under 0.3 right now, under 2.5. I think just a little bit of a breather. The throttle there for Beckham Jasir is now allowed for Justin Ream to officially be in contention and be in the fight. And don't look now, but Ryan Patton only 0.5 of a second behind them as well. They're going to come to the line here to take 2 to go from Barney the Flagman as they roar across the line right now. Only 0.2 of a second the gap between Beckham Jasir and Justin Ream. Ream looks a little bit down to the inside as they both get onto the binders for turn 1. Ream's going to have to wait another day to try to make that move, but he is threatening.
He is, and it's just not quite a settle through turn 1, the Porsche there. Jasir certainly was, and he could set himself up for this section of the racetrack, but Ream doesn't have that luxury really. He's much better through this section, slightly lower speed at 3, 4 and 5 to exit himself through Big Bend and getting towards the hairpin maybe on the inside line. But once again, it's not a great exit out of turn 5, and he's not able to get the run for the hairpin at turn 7. He'll have a look. He won't have a dive. Ryan Patton is certainly here though. It's 5 for the lead here after nearly 40 minutes. Fantastic end to this race.
Absolutely spectacular, as we've got about 1.5 laps left to go here from Sebring International Raceway. Justin Ream continuing to try to put pressure onto the back of Beckham Jasir. He's going to look around the outside here of Cunningham, trying to get that to work. Not able to get it done, but he certainly knows the pressure is there. But that has allowed for Ryan Patton to be able to close up back to the back. He's only about 0.3 of a second behind as Ream pokes this way, pokes that way, trying to find a way by, trying to find an area to be able to make the attack here on Beckham Jasir. They come out of Tower right now, coming through Bishop Bend. This is going to be very perilous, as now it looks like Ryan Patton's the one in the catbird's position. He's all over the back of that 912 of Justin Ream.
Well, this is the problem for Justin Ream, really. The fact that Patton is so close means that he can't really experiment with the lines to try and upset Beckham Jasir and try and get him offline at some point. He's kind of got to look in the mirrors himself. And so that's providing a real problem for him, and there's a real conundrum for Patton as well. Does he overtake Ream for second place in the hopes he can do 2 in 1 lap here? Or does he have to stay behind and hope to take his chances as the 2 of them fight? Well, he's going to have to take his chances, I think, here. Otherwise, if the 2 Porsches fight, then Jasir will go on to win this race.
You've got to be very strategic here in how you want to do this as the white flag waves from Barney the Flagman. 1 lap to go from Sebring International Raceway. Jasir feeling the pressure, moves off to the inside. Ream with a great move later on the binders, tries to send it in, but with the crossover, Beckham Jasir goes back into the lead of the race.
Well, it was a little bit more of a show move than anything, I think, from Justin Ream there, who's going to get dived by Ryan Patton. Oh, and it's too much. The Porsches battle. Beckham Jasir's away and gone, and see you later. This win is his surely now, as Justin Ream holds on to second. It's all hell going to break loose for second place here.
It certainly certainly is, as we keep our eyes on that battle. Adam Brockway looking very, very threatening on the back. Don't count out Hugo Gallo. Defensive line there from Ryan Patton going down into the hairpin. Is that going to send Brockway the long way around? No, he's going to have to sort back into line here as they file their way out of the curves and now work their way towards Cunningham, trying to see if we can get another move to fire itself off before the end of this race.
It's looking unlikely, 0.8 of a second. It's going to have to be a huge final lap from Justin Rome right now. And it's, well, all Beckham Jasir's to lose right now with 0.8 of a second. The only chance he has left, even if he does get one more, is going to be into Sunset Bend. And nobody has been able to outbrake a Mercedes into Sunset Bend yet today. It's been so strong and stable on the way into that final turn. And Brainey's going to have to do the impossible here in the final sector to win this one now.
He is going to have to throw it absolutely all on the board here to try to make this work as the cars thunder their way on through the corners. Now headed down through Le Mans and onto the Ullman Straight for the final time here for the GT4 Sprint Series, a part of the Precision Racing League. They're all in single file order, but how long will that hold itself off? Beckham Jasir looks like he's able to get this. He's about 0.4 of a second ahead of Justin Ream. No moves going down into Sunset, and nobody's able to outbrake one another. It's now just about the application of the throttle as Beckham Jasir comes out of the final corner, powers his way onto the start-finish line, and Beckham Jasir will take victory over Justin Ream and Ryan Patton.
5 cars separated by less than 2 seconds at the end of a 40-minute race. A fantastic one at Sebring and a great finale as well, but it was all decided at turn number 1. Justin Ream was almost searching for the most spectacular overtake that he could achieve, not the most sensible one. Why he went to the inside so late on the brakes from Beckham Jasir, I have no idea. Ryan Patton then tried to go for it up to second place. He outbroke himself into turn 3, and from there the Mercedes was away, and all Jasir had to do was drive the circuit one more time to win this race.
Yeah, certainly did, as the last driver is starting to come across the line right now. A couple of good battles. Looks like Ridgway and Foe going to be holding on to that, as it looks like that is going to be Robert Ridgway able to hold that out. Another good battle there with Jeff Carollo and Jake Haskell, with Carollo winning by 81 thousandths of a second. Here's a great battle. This is Joshua Chinsky and Josh Kimball coming down into the final corner. The 18 there of Chinsky trying to hold that out. The McLaren down to the inside. Kimball clearly trying for a little bit of an over-under here. Did the McLaren run a little bit too wide? It doesn't look like it. He's got it underneath him. He's going to power to the line. A great move there for Joshua Chinsky.
Well, we always say that there are a million ways and million lines through the final corner here at Sebring. Well, I think we saw a few thousand of those lines there in that one lap there. Based on those two, they were all over the place. But fighting for positions, what can you expect on the final lap of a race? Normally I'm not a fan of racing around Sebring, to be honest. I don't think it provides great racing sometimes, but it certainly did here tonight. We certainly weren't disappointed by either of the races, whether it was here or at Monza a little bit earlier on. So yeah, great race and a great finish as well at the front.
Absolutely spectacular stuff from this Sphere, and Beckham Jasir able to take victory over Justin Ream and Ryan Patton to round out your podium. Then it was Adam Brockway and Hugo Gallo, again 1.8 seconds separating those top 5. Nicholas Rice-Puto in P6, followed by Mariano Barrios, then Max Tillanuve, Michael Terrafino, and Jordan Rixgrini there to round out your top 10. As we continue to look our way through the rest of the order here, Bertiom, Richards, Brown, Fortin, David Van Roy, General Braddock, Miles, Mario, and Lawrence in your top 20. And then as we continue to work our way down through the order as they go, it was William Brennan, Robert Ridgway, Romain Fall, then Jeff Carollo, Jake Haskell, Fleischman Jr., Chinsky, Kimball, Brown, all finishing on the lead lap. A good run there from them. And then in 31st position, it was Aaron Nations, Walker Clayton, Mark Sigalo, Glenn Vanko, and then Stevenson finishing a lap down. Groves, Hoskins, Rivera, Williams, and May all having a little bit of rough running out there, as did Nicholas Belmont. But without further ado, let's go ahead and bring over our Victor, who has joined us here in Victory Lane. Beckham, talk about that race, my friend, because it looked like you were not able to rest at any point.
Yeah, I just I saw the mistake from Justin at the start of the race, so I tried taking the lead, I got it, and then I just stayed in front, but they managed to just stay with me the whole race, so it was tight. And then at the end of the race, I got jumped in the pits, but I fought hard and I got to the lead, and then we had a nice battle at the end.
Well, in terms of that pit stop battle, I mean, were you worried when you came out of the pits, or did you think you had the speed to be able to close them down?
I thought I had more speed to close them down for sure. It's just those Porsches were really amazing me in the straight line speed because they had a lot.
Well, you did a great job, Beckham, and we will see you next time out when we head on over to Barber. It's going to be a good one. We'll see you then.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that was Beckham Jasir, your victor here today, and now it's time to talk with the man who you just heard him talking about, Justin Ream. Justin, a little bit of heartbreak for you out there. It looked like you almost had that one.
Yeah, I was getting pretty close to the limit of the tires. I think I overcooked the rear tires coming out of the pits, so they were starting to slide a little bit and losing a little bit of traction. And yeah, last lap kind of had to make a move. I think it was probably a bad move to make. I probably should have waited to the back straight, but it is what it is. And he had some really good pace today, so.
Had some really good pace, and as we look ahead to the rest of the season, and indeed next week, Barber, a completely different circuit. Do you like your chances there? Are you going to be able to fight back?
I hope so. I have the IRA Championship this weekend at Barber as well, so that should help. It'll be in a different car, but should help me, get used to the track and stuff. So.
Well, fantastic, Justin. We wish you the best of luck there, and we'll see you next week, my friend.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, that was Justin Ream, your second-place finisher. And, folks, that's about going to wrap up our coverage here tonight on RaceSpotTV. But there, as you see, the rest of our schedule. We head to Barber next time out on April 3rd. You are not going to want to miss that, nor indeed any of the rest of these spectacular circuits that we will visit over the course of this 10-round season for the Precision Racing League. But on behalf of the entire broadcast crew here tonight, including myself, DJ Clark, Ewan O'Leary, and Arjuna Kankapati, who's been working as our director and producer behind the scenes, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you the racing action. We will see you next time out as we head on over. But in the meantime, until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.